Like a concept.
Couple. Next condo down from us, somebody, I say, built, carved a mermaid in the sand.
Oh, wow.
It is really cool and put shells on it to. I got a picture of someone. Built a mermaid in the sand.
Oh, that checks.
It is really cool. Put shells on it.
Play it back.
Uh-huh.
Delay, actually. It's a 7-second delay.
Oh.
My granddaughter would love that.
It's a mermaid on the beach.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's cool. That is very cool. Wow. It's a mermaid.
You see it?
Oh,
Somebody just did that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Doors down for me. Yeah.
Cool.
hello, I'm Belinda.
Ron Eschenfelder, nice to meet you.
Free to talk. Same.
Good. Good evening, everyone. Today is February 23rd, 2023, 6 p.m. and welcome to the beautiful city of Bel Air Beach. This is the City Council work session. We'll just move right on over to Pledge of Allegiance and then we'll take roll. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with
Liberty and justice for all.
Patty, would you please take the roll?
Councilmember Belinda Livingstone,
Present.
Councilmember Leslie Notero.
Here.
Councilmember Lloyd Roberts,
Here.
Councilmember Mike Zabel,
Here.
Vice Mayor Jody Shirley,
Here.
Mayor Dave Gaddis.
Here.
City Manager Kyle Reefler,
Here.
City Attorney Robert Eschenfelder, and Councilmember Frank Bankert was unable to attend.
He just walked in.
He's like, where's his name tag? Is it up there?
And Councilmember Frank Bankert.
Here. Or present. Thank you, Patty. All right. At 7:30, we're going to take a break. As you know, on these work sessions, we try not to roll past 9 p.m. so that we can get a good night's sleep and not starve to death. So 7:30, if everybody can make it till then, I would greatly appreciate it. And we'll take 10 minutes and then we'll come right back and wrap it up. All right. So let's move right on into item number 1, a discussion of proposed ordinance regarding comprehensive sign regulation. And we're going to give the floor right over to Randy Morris, stand in. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, council members, Robert Eschenfelder. My understanding from Mr. Moore is that y'all have already had a workshop and gone through it. So what is your pleasure? And should you want to go page by page again, or do you all just want to individually let me know questions or comments you have?
I got one question. We had a handout that's on the table, then we had the one that was previously in our packet. Which is the up-to-date one?
One that was on the table is most up to date one.
Can you give us a rundown of anything that may have changed between what's in our agenda packet and what we have on the table?
Yes. Everything that Mr. Moore changed between this time and last time is in red, strike through, underline. And so if you look on the one that's on the table, so that we're all on the same page numbers, it would be page number 20. And he made changes to the definition of portable sign. What is note indicated to me, he did that, have feedback from you all, so I don't, if you can take a chance to read it and let me know if it reflected what you want.
So that's just under definitions, right? Yeah.
Whenever I read through the copy that's in our agenda packet, it looked to me like he put in all of our requests. Did anyone see any discrepancies at all? Okay, and the only thing that's changed is this what's in red, and that was where he was just cleaning up some language. Does anyone have any questions about what what's being presented to us tonight? General consensus from the council on this item. Is everyone satisfied with this?
Not me.
We're fully aware of that, Mr. Bankert. But
Satisfied.
I appreciate your opinion. All right, and Ms. Livingstone,
Yes, sir.
you okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Vice Mayor Shirley,
It's fine.
okay. Wood Roberts,
I'm good with it.
all right. Leslie,
I had a couple issues that I was talking to the city attorney, like the definition of color means any distinct tint, hue, or shade, including black, white, or gray. So what is not color?
air, I'm not real sure.
You know what I mean?
So it's not a hill that I want to die on, so if y'all want me to strike it, I will. The purpose of it, though, it is to, lawyers are interesting creatures and they will make arguments wherever they can to try to challenge. And so if you use the word color to talk about signage and you don't say that it includes black, white, and gray, then the lawyer is going to say, well, my sign doesn't apply because it's not, my client's sign doesn't apply because it's black and white only, or, you know, something like that. And so that's why we're just saying, if you can see it, you know, being translated by your eyes, it's a color.
It's a
Yeah.
color.
Even though most of us don't understand that black and white is. So that's why it's there.
Okay.
Any other questions, Ms. Notaro?
No.
Attorney Notaro?
Pardon?
Attorney
Yeah,
Notaro?
sorry. No, everything else was. I mean, a couple, and I think he said this came out of the, out of the statute, but it's on page, it's 39 in the book. It's section 8619. So section B, uses and removal of political campaign advertisements.
It's on page 39 of the one that's on the table. And you know, the councilwoman made a good point that it's not, the wording of it isn't the grammar that she would use. However, this, I don't know if Mr. Moore told you before, but this comes right out of the Florida statute. And so we want to not deviate from the words of the Florida statute, because if we ever get challenged for this in terms of a First Amendment or whatever, we're just going to simply say, this is exactly what the legislature did. So if we follow the legislature, you know, the whole state follows.
So we don't care about the grammar.
Well, again, I'm here.
No, that
To
sounds reasonable.
I'm here to take your will, but if
Yeah,
the
no.
legislature used that grammar, I'm just thinking it's best to use the same.
Those were the comments I had. That's it.
And going back to the flags, I know that you raised the issue that a 30-foot flagpole supports a 40-foot flag. But do we want two flags that size on a pole that size? That,
I don't.
yeah, I wouldn't either.
Plus the stress load. I mean, that one of those flags takes an awful lot of stress and I don't. I put multiple flags on it. The flag's suddenly reduced to about that long.
Mhm.
And that's only in case of a party.
Well, the only reason why I bring it up is because I drove past your house
Hmm?
and wanted to see that flag, and you don't have that size flag, I don't think. You
No,
have a
I-
3x5.
Yeah, I got the small cheap one right now.
Okay.
Can I ask what section we're talking about?
This is page 40, flags at the bottom.
Thank you. Oh, okay.
So my recommendation would be maybe one of those in a 3x5 maximum. Instead of two 40 square feet flags.
Oh, I'm definitely fine with that, yeah.
That makes sense to everyone?
So you want it to say one flag?
Well, what it is on, for instance, my flag pole at home, mine's a small one, and I have a 3x5, and then I have a whatever the next size is down for the state of Florida. So the United States flag is the largest, and then and I was just thinking 2 40 square foot flags anywhere in Bel Air Beach is probably crazy. So do we want to reduce, maybe say one flag at that size and then something smaller? The next, maybe a 3x5 is the second maximum.
Why did we increase it from 15 to 40 in the first place?
Well, it wasn't, was it 15?
Was it 15 is lined out?
Yeah, originally it was, and there's standard flag sizes for standard pole sizes, and Mr. Zabel raised the issue that he has a 30-foot flagpole, and the standard size for that size pole is actually a 5x8.
Okay, fine, that's good.
That's fine.
All right.
But definitely no 2 5x8s on a pole.
But what my hopes are is that there's just a 3x5, but I understand that, that's a regulation flagpole size. And if we allow 30-foot flagpoles, then we have to allow one 5x8.
Okay.
Why don't we just say 1 5x8 or 2 3x, or, because right now it says 2 flags not greater than 15 square feet. Well, see, I don't have, mine wasn't, I'm looking at this, I'm comparing the two, right? So if we allow 2, just limit
Well,
it to still like the 40 square feet.
yeah, it's what the council wants. So I just wanted to bring it up that, wow, I mean, the thing would almost be touching the ground.
I know, I'm
Time
looking
you-
at the big one over there, kind of thinking, how big is that? Is that on the other side of the bridge?
That one's, I think that
No,
one's even
that's
bigger, way
that's
bigger.
24 12 or something. Yeah, those are Carl Island flags.
Flag expert, so.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I mean, my
Seems like-
retirement flags, most flags are, the 3x5s, but the standard,
Yeah, my
used by.
recommendation would be the maximum. In fact, you could even take it to a 5x8 for 30-foot and 25 or less 3x5. You can do all sorts of things to really make it concise, but I do know that I had a neighbor that he doesn't live there anymore, but he put a giant flagpole out in the front yard, and that flag makes some noise. It was
Yeah.
very, very loud, and he wouldn't put a second flag on there, but I was just thinking, boy, if he put 2 of those up there, it's possibly a hazard.
Snap.
So what do you think? 3x5 is the second, and then we're done with it.
Yeah, so the first flag,
You can-
5x8.
Yeah,
The second flag, if so chosen, 3x5.
Or smaller,
Right.
yeah.
And no greater than 3x5.
right?
That makes sense.
That work for everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And that was really the only thing that I had.
What's the next step? I mean, I'm assuming everything looked good to me. With the corrections is, we propose this going forward into the next city council meeting.
I don't think it's been to your planning board yet. So it has to go to the planning board because it's part of your land development code per statute. And then once the planning board reviews it and provides you whatever comments and suggestions that it has, then it comes back to y'all for first reading.
So it
So
has
there'll
not
be
made it
three,
there
there'll be
yet.
3 more stops that the citizens can get and y'all can get.
All
I just
right.
want to return to flags to make sure I got, so you want to say the first shall be no greater than 5 by 8
Correct,
and the second shall be no greater than 3 by 5?
correct.
Right.
Got it. Thank you.
That's all I had. Council, anyone else? No?
No, sir.
Okay, well, let's move right on to item number 2, discussion of the 2023 comprehensive plan draft. Consider proper zoning land use for the hotel condominium parcels. And this was placed on the agenda by Vice Mayor Shirley. You have the floor.
Yeah, so I recently had to find hotel rooms for family and found that the rooms along the beach are rented nightly. Although we say we have no hotels on the beach, they call themselves hotels. They rent like hotels. They act like hotels, but we have no commercial property on the beach, according to our comp plan. The reason for bringing this up is we all know that the cities will need funds for future projects and just moving forward. The last thing I want to do is tax our residents. But if we have commercial businesses already operating on the beach, then maybe we should look at how that tax base might be affected if we did allow a future land use of hotels, because they're already operating as such. And if we got back bed tax for those nightly rentals. Just something kind of opening it up for discussion, everyone to look at and think about. I think it's, I think it could potentially be a good revenue source that we are overlooking. Now, I may, council might have a different opinion, but it would not be nice to hear when it, the legal side of that might look like. And is it a possibility to, can we all get on board of taking a look at it and seeing if there's an opportunity to raise revenues a little bit without taxing our residents?
Yes, Mr. Roberts.
I'm just looking for some clarification because I was told, I think more than once when I asked about that particular building, what is it? Because when I first came up to register with the city, and then I said I live on 20th Street, pretty much across the street from the hotel. And they said, no, we don't have a hotel. I said, it says hotel. So like you said, it looks like hotel. So my question is, I was later told that each of the units are owned personally, similar to like a condo. And then it's managed from within. So perhaps they do rent them out on a nightly basis. I don't know. But is that first statement, is that accurate that each of the units, like Mr. Smith and Mrs. Smith, own 101? It's not owned by one hotel owner. Is that true?
So I can tell you the Beller Beach Resort
Okay,
has multiple owners. There's one owner that owns more than 50% of the units. Most
Okay.
of them are 1 bedroom, 1 bath. You can walk in there and rent them by the night.
okay,
Even the ones that are owned individually are still, you're able to rent by the
Got it.
night.
Which runs afoul of our,
Right.
and somebody at the desk manages that with respect to who's up next
That's right.
type of thing?
It's pretty common anymore.
Okay,
Yeah.
And then the one that's further north, the little blue hotel, and that is strictly timeshare. You can only get it by the week, but it's still timeshare and you can
Okay.
rent it by the week. So again, I don't know if there's opportunity for bed tax or, some way to offset, because it is a lot of work for our staff. If you walk the beach, it's busy, especially on holidays, and there's a lot of extra traffic on the beach, a lot of extra trash on the beach, if you go to the our only beach access with a bathroom and you walk in there, it's disgusting and our staff has to clean it, and that's from, all this use of outsiders using our beach. And I think that we just need to be creative about how to tax that. If there's an opportunity to tax it more, we should.
Is there a resort tax fee that's charged to these hotels, so named? Resort tax, entertainment tax? I mean, if you went right now out to rented the Hampton Inn or whatever, and you were on the beach or something like that, you mostly in Clearwater, you get a resort tax, you get an entertainment tax. Do we get any part of any of that money?
Currently don't, and that has to do with the way it's zoned. The Fort Pinellas threw out some options, which they called a resort facilities overlay, which was its purposes of this category is to depict utilization and overlay over residential areas that are now developed. Let me see so the use of characteristics. So its primary use would be residential temporary lodging, but it's a different zoning requirement, which enables you to charge fees from what we are at the residential medium.
Which we can charge, we can, maybe. Are you saying in layman's terms that we can dip our beak into that money and?
It's possible. I don't know all the legalities of it. You might.
Well, so two things going on here. Forward Pinellas advises you on land use. And so what they're proposing as an alternative is a way to allow it and call it something in your plan, because right now, from what I'm hearing, you don't. What is it currently zoned?
Residential medium.
Residential? Okay.
Yeah.
So, and if it has a front desk, and it's operating like a hotel, I think the first thing is, if you don't want that to be occurring, then you need to go in with code enforcement and say, I don't know what this is, but it's clearly not residential, and so you need to shut down the front desk because you're clearly operating commercial. That'll freak everybody out. But if you don't mind, and that's up to you all as policy, and it's more, okay, it's here, it's operating, let's regulate it the way the reality is, and let's start getting revenue flowing in, because the reality is that the town is paying for, like you said, the restrooms and so forth. Then you would change the zoning, and an overlay is an option to do it. I represent Reddington Shores, and they did a tourist facilities overlay, they called it, same kind of a thing, over a residential neighborhood, because there's so many vacation rentals there. And but in terms of the tax revenue, you need to turn to, what is the legislature allowed to tax? Because as a municipality, we can't tax anything that the legislature hasn't expressly allowed us to. So the hotel industry and all of its little subdivisions, timeshares and so forth are regulated under Chapter 509 of Florida statutes. And it provides definitions for each of the things. What is a hotel? There's a definition for it. What is a motel? What is a timeshare? And then there are taxes that are required of all that. And then, of course, Pinellas County has overlaid its bed tax and so forth that would then begin to apply. So if you wanted to go in that direction, we could go in that direction as well. So really, you guys just needed to talk amongst yourselves, either tonight or at some point, where do we want to go with it? And then give us direction of what to go, and we'll work with the manager to bring back to you what needs to change.
So, Mr. Eschenfelder, am I pronouncing that right, by the way?
You are indeed better than half my law professors.
Great. Okay, so at the end of the day, if you just want to get right down to it, these are short-term rentals, all right? And we are grandfathered in right now, and we don't allow short-term rentals. However, if we go and we change anything in our ordinances that would impact the outcome of short-term rentals, we lose it all, is my understanding.
That is a very strong, there's no case that's held that yet. And the reason why is because local governments who are in the beautiful position you're in of being grandfathered in don't want to risk that grandfathering. And so they don't want to even change a dot on the I, because then lawyers will come rolling in and say, oh, it's all gone now. there is a bill that's been filed this year that gives that little bit of a nugget to say that if you change your grandfathered code, but it is to be more generous, you don't lose your grandfathered code. The unfortunate part about that bill, which is by a senator that we all know, also has a lot of negative things for local governments. And
Correct.
so I know a lot of my communities are opposing that bill, but I think in terms of what you're going to get the argument on with the lawyers, because that bill was even filed, even if it doesn't succeed, the lawyers are going to say, see here in this legislative session, the legislature was thinking about allowing local governments to change their code, but they didn't pass it. So you can't, clearly the legislature was thinking, Your Honor, you can't do it. So my advice, and I think Mr. Moore's as well, is you're risking a lot if you change anything about short-term rentals.
And we're talking about 714, SB 714, correct?
Correct.
It looks to me like that's a trap. It looks to me like the language is so vague and weird. And the way that they say the same thing 3 or 4 times differently. And
Not only that, but it's so rich. I wrote the legislative update and I find it interesting that it purports to give us brand new power to set up a registration system when we already have that. We already have that power. So it is a trap in that way too, because I can see that the lawyers are going to come and say, oh, well, the legislature is now parceling out little bits of power to you. So that means you can't do anything else with respect to vacation rentals. It's a real terrible. bill.
right, they wrote it in a way that looks like we can make a little money off of this by forcing them to register.
Correct.
And even that is a restriction. As much as I can't stand where we're at right now with this whole debate is my recommendation would be to let's wait and see what happens with this bill and then talk about it after, whether it passes or it fails. But they're going to keep coming. They're just going to keep coming after us more and more until they get their way.
It's the same bill that's been proposed,
Last year, yes.
what, about for last at least 7 years. I think they've thrown something out and it's got watered down, stiffened up. And it's from the real estate lobby. It's really pushing this thing. And hopefully it doesn't get traction.
One of our lawmakers' brother runs a bunch of vacation rentals up and down the
I
coast
suspected that.
here.
One more question, because I started dabbling into these hotel rentals, and they are hotel rentals, but they're not owned by the hotel anymore. Some towns say if you live, the owner's allowed to live or use that occupancy for up to 30 days a quarter. If they exceed that, then they have to pay school tax. Do our owners and these, like what you explained, do they have to pay the school tax on each one of these units, or is Pinellas County taxable on those units, or?
So the county sets that and it goes by what the zoning is on it. So if it's residential, it's zoned one way. If it's
It
commercial,
doesn't matter if the owner's in there
No,
30 days or.
how it's used is
365.
irrelevant
Okay.
to school tax.
So and I would go to the timeshares as well. They just get an annual.
Whatever
tax
the
for that
zone
unit.
is, whatever the value of property is, that's what's going to
They
be.
pay the same
They
taxes.
pay the
Okay,
same tax, yeah.
thank you.
And currently we charge a registration fee for
$300.
rentals, but not to condo rentals. Is that correct?
That's all,
Yeah.
all condo and household rentals.
So all the condos are paying and even if each condo pays 300 a year,
A year, it's
no
annual.
matter how many times it's rented.
Correct.
And the bill is going to reduce that to $50.
$50, yeah.
Or if, let's say you have 20, your maximum bill would be $100.
Wow.
So would it make sense and
point.
and if the answer is no, that's fine, but on the comprehensive plan, if we do an overlay. And then if down the road, because once you've got this land use code, comp plan done with your land use code, that's it. You're kind of married to it for the next 10 years, right?
You can change it. There's an opportunity for out of cycle changes, but what happens is if you do that, that's going to impute greater investment value to the land in the overlay district because now more can be done with it. And then if you take it away in the future, now you're opening yourself to a Bert Harris claim.
Gotcha.
So be very careful about giving something because that's the issue. Can you change it? Yes, you can. But then they're going to come after you and say, oh, well, now you took away my potential for commercial use. Now I'm back to just residential. I've lost my investment backed expectations. Pay me money.
So do you see any opportunity for any further taxation on these vacation rentals that are out there?
Are they coming in, these units and registering? Or are they just ignoring us?
The ones that, yeah, when they're notified and being honest about it, they do come in. There's definitely got to be some that we're not getting. And then the hotel, the owner, it was a dispute last year where he finally did pay his rental registration fee for his units, but he still hasn't paid this year, so he's.
That's the resort. Bel Air.
For each of his units that he owned,
Yes,
he paid $300
Well,
for each
that
one.
property just changed hands and we didn't, I mean, you couldn't have changed hands without, I wouldn't think, without that assessment being paid. Did they call for a title on it? All of those units in Bel Air Beach,
how recently?
the Bel Air Beach Resort.
I haven't seen a,
Yeah.
Are you,
Glad to get a reassessment
are you,
change
when you
of
say
ownership.
assessment, are you speaking of the registration fees that y'all require? You can buy and sell, that's not going to cloud title.
oh,
So that the title search wouldn't even have
They
picked that
usually
up.
call the city though for a clear,
they do.
yeah.
Right, but what our answer there is supposed to be, are there any open code liens that have been filed? You know, that's really, because that clouds title. A filed lien means that somebody can come and take money off this property. The fact that they owe a registration fee, if we haven't cited them for it yet and then gone on and, you know, it's
Because
just.
it's probably not completely
It's something
past
we
due
need to-
yet, yeah.
What we should do, if we are aware of units, is code enforcement. Say, you know, this, you're required to pay this $300 fee. Here's your code citation. Pay it.
Yes, sir, Mr. Roberts.
So right now, I just want to clarify the short-term rental in my own head. So short-term rental for residences is what? 30 days, 90 days,
90 days.
90 days for homes. And for condos, does it vary by condo based on the condo association?
It's pretty much the association
Mhm.
deals with it.
Okay,
They,
So
they
that-
determine how much their people can rent it out for what period of time.
okay.
The city has no regulation about them.
You can change your regulation to one overnight though, right?
Pardon?
You could change, the condo association can actually change it to daily rentals, right?
Yeah,
They
if
want
they
to
could,
do it.
if they could, if the other owners agree to it, fine,
Right.
you know.
And see, that's where we may have
The resort,
a
we
loop.
have an owner that
Is
owns.
is
within
if we
50%.
work with the resorts to try to do something where then it's the homeowners association or, yeah, you know, condo owners association who's actually imposing more restrict regulations and not the city. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I'm so curious about this entity, like, you know, is there a common parking area?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
so how do they deal with that? Like if somebody owns more than 50%, but then you gotta, there's gotta be some condo doc, I would imagine, that has been created, because otherwise, if I only own one of those units, what are my rights to the common parking?
Okay.
If a sinkhole happens in the common parking lot, who, you know, am I obligated to pay that? Are you obligated to pay that? There's gotta be more behind the curtain that we don't know.
And
There are
ultimately,
condo
it's that there's potential to have worse neighbors than what the single family dwellings have, because now, I mean, you know how noisy someone
Yeah.
can be if you're sharing a wall.
Cheaper buying.
So we probably just need to, Leslie, you could probably do an informal survey with your neighbors and just ask them how they feel about it. Because ultimately, I know you're in a smaller
Yeah.
condo, right?
Right.
But I'm sure that rules do change from time to time, and it's because people like you bring something to the association's attention.
So we had an issue a while ago, but we changed it with with our association.
More strict.
You know, we do have, the city does have a list of the contact for every
That was private. so they-
condo
they could do
along the
it.
beach. Perhaps we could use that list to inquire as to what their rental restrictions are. I mean, I'm happy to call a bunch of them.
Mm,
I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to gather that data, have another meeting and a work session, just to review the data and decide whether it's something that we could maybe have a special meeting, invite them in and say, hey, we're aware that you have a problem and we'd like to help you by helping you get organized. And I mean, ultimately, there's no revenue. It wouldn't help us with any revenue, but it would certainly be the right thing to do if there's problems in those areas. Mr.
So if we're
Roberts.
looking for a definition of the resort, Jody, what do you think it would be right now based on what you?
Hotel.
It's a hotel, there'd be a
Yeah.
definition, and we don't allow hotels.
And I think the other
right?
two are legitimately timeshare, but you know,
So we have condos and we have timeshares
we have condos, we have timeshares, and we have,
and one hotel.
yeah, and and the two timeshares look like hotels. Everyone refers to them as a hotel. But
No
they're-
vacancy.
Yeah, they have no vacancy signs up, but, and I think most of the condos are like where Leslie lives. The residents are gonna step up and say, this is what we want, and they're not gonna allow this, but, we've got some situations where we have hotels running.
Do those
now.
other buildings, the resort, do they have an association? Do we know?
I mean,
Or is it-
I'm sure they do, and they have docs. I was gonna actually go to public record and pull them, and I just didn't with what,
Okay.
I'd been going through. I haven't had a chance to pull those, but I was gonna pull the docs and see what they say, but if you've got an owner that owns more than 50%, likely he can change those docs to whatever he wants them to say
Okay.
without any other vote.
But also bear in mind, if he owns 50% of whatever units or however many units are in the building or the complex, he's probably making a lot of money.
Mhm.
And probably is not going to want to give that up. It would have to be individuals. Those would be the ones you'd have to have a greater percentage that would be against it than a single owner who had a whole handful of them. But it's definitely something to look into and talk further about.
Okay.
The last question I have is, aside from a revenue perspective, is this really a problem for the city?
Is it a problem? I mean, I think it creates some problems whenever we have, when you get the police report, typically it's non-residents. So that tells you something, right?
True.
So does it create problems? Certainly does. But, and I'm always looking at how can we increase revenues without taxing our residents?
Right.
Well, I think the other thing to think about too is, y'all have, every city and county has zoning for a reason, because you're trying to say this fits with this and that. And so to some extent, knowingly allowing essentially a commercial hotel to be operating in what we've proclaimed to be residential isn't really doing what the people want you to do. It's like you're saying, well, we know that this is residential, but we're letting Winn-Dixie operate right in the middle of it or something, philosophically speaking, we shouldn't turn a blind eye if someone is truly flaunting the zoning that they're in, because it can create an argument down the road. And I'm being somewhat hypothetical here, but someone else is going to come say, when you start picking on them and enforcing, well, what about that hotel over there that is in the middle of a residential and you haven't done anything to them for years? Now you're picking on me because I have a home-based business or whatever. So that's just something to keep in mind too. You should ultimately, I'm not saying it's urgent, but you should continue to talk it through and decide which route do you want to go? Do you want to go back to residential the way it is? And if so, get code enforcement out there and say, you got to shut down that lobby, that lobbies have no place in residential. Or if you want to face reality and maybe get revenue and all that, then you go down the road of overlay.
So maybe what we should first do is fully analyze what kind of zoning they are in and what are their rules specifically and what are they in violation of, because that's revenue also.
And I would also just encourage everyone to read this comp plan because the other one was riddled with errors and things that didn't really apply. And there's some, this is like the beginning of our strategic planning, right? This should have some of those when we got our capital improvement projects listed in here. They should be accurate. It should be a hit list of what we intend to get done.
Right.
And the one in the past, the flood budget was not nearly what it really was. So there's just some things that we really need to pay attention to. It's not just a check the box, it's done sort of thing. Everyone needs to read it.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion on the on item number 2, the comprehensive plan draft? No. All right, we're on to item number 3, and this is actually a continuation of a topic that Mike Zabel brought up, but I am passing the torch over to the city manager. This is a discussion of revising the marina wait list policy.
Okay. So the last time we talked, we,
Yes, sir.
Can't hear.
comment.
If you'd like to just come up and speak for a second, I don't have a problem with that.
While you're on the subject of the comprehensive plan, I'm a member of the board that's reviewing the comprehensive plan. And the one topic tonight is fine, but I wanted to kind of plant a seed, if council doesn't mind, going forward when you're reviewing this comprehensive plan. May I?
Yes.
I would just want to point out some things. Forward Pinellas. This is the organization that is helping us review our comprehensive plan to make sure we're meeting the state, county mandates regarding our comprehensive plan and being in compliance with that of the county and state. They're also doing that for every city in Pinellas County, the same organization.
Mhm.
They're also the ones who are advising Pinellas County on their plan. Having said that, I'd like to skip to one point, and that's transportation. When you go through this, there's a transportation element. When you read it, it's discussing what Bel Air Beach needs to do to be responsible in its transportation system. Apply Clearwater Beach. When you read Bel Air Beach, think Clearwater Beach.
Mhm.
And have they complied? And have they met the standards? For instance, just one of the points here, development projects that generate between 50 and 300 new peak hour trips of on deficient roads shall be classified as tier 1 and required to submit a transportation management plan designed to address their impacts while increasing mobility and reducing the demand for single occupant vehicle traffic. I was on the Citizens Review Committee that reviewed the construction of this bridge. And all during those meetings, we were constantly told the reason it's 2-lane and Gulf Boulevard will be 2-lane is that the state says they don't want greater density on the Bay Area Islands because of the obvious concerns for storm and the cost if the area is impacted by a storm. So the bridges remain 2-lane, and Clearwater had 4 lanes because they had 4 lanes coming in. This is back when all of the motels on Clearwater Beach were little mom pop motels. As soon as all of this was constructed, Clearwater Beach exploded, and they're continuing every day to build high density, high occupancy facilities, but yet not one extra road going in or out of Clearwater Beach. It's still all cars. There's no high density transportation, rail, or any other things being done to reduce vehicular traffic, which all of you know is what is greatly impacting us. So as you read this and understand what we're being required to do, think about how they have missed the boat on doing those things themselves. And where was the oversight? And why aren't we asking for a review of the oversight process for Clearwater Beach? Because I think that's about the only thing you can do to try and mitigate what's happening there. Probably won't happen in my lifetime, but there needs to be another bridge out of there, and there needs to be high density traffic. And how are we going to get that? By asking why they didn't comply with the very things that they're supposed to. And why are these people who are guiding us not guiding them properly to implement the things they're supposed to be implementing?
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Council, I will let you know that I actually did speak to Ford Pinellas about 2 months ago. And I appeared at one of their meetings. I was invited by Cookie Kennedy, the mayor of Indian Rocks Beach, to come speak because it was her last meeting as chair of Ford Pinellas. It was myself and 2 other mayors in the Big C. We were invited to come speak, and we were asked if there was anything that we would like to see. And I explained to all of Ford Pinellas that we were completely overrun with traffic. And it's not just a holiday. It's not just spring break. You never know when it's going to happen, but it happens all the time. And I explained that it takes 10 to 15 minutes to get out of our streets sometimes because the cars are so backed up and nobody will give you a break to get out. And I painted a real ugly picture of what was going on here. And I also said the reason why this is happening is because they're all heading to Clearwater Beach, the most popular beach in the world. And I said, so I appreciate you inviting me to speak. And what I would like to ask for is a new bridge from Sand Key back over to Gulf to Bay so that they can come in, loop around, and go right back out. They did not like that at all. They thought that that was the dumbest thing they had ever heard. And then they said that that's we have to put up with it because that's what we get from tourism. And I came home, I was furious, and I looked it up. I called Kyle. I said, how much are we getting, for pennies for Pinellas from tourism? And he gave me the number, and it came out to $600 a day. So for $600 a day, this is what we get. They believe that they can solve all of our problems with rapid rail that will never make it here. They believe that people coming here will get off that rapid rail, hop on a bus that won't get them to their final destination. And I explained that to all of them that, you're going to have some people that will do this, but most people want to just drive in and go right to their hotel and park their car. And they're not going to do this. So whenever I explained this to all the other mayors up and down the beach, they told me exactly what you're talking about. All they care about is Clearwater Beach and St. Pete. and everybody else is just fodder in the middle, and we just need to comply and conform. Well, I'm not doing that. I'm still going to be a thorn in their side, and I'm going to keep going back, and I'm going to see if nothing else, I can get some people thinking. There is a little bit of a bright side, is that Commissioner Scott is now on that board, and he knows all about buses. He knows all about Rapid Rail. He knows about all that because he owns the Escott bus line, you know, the private tour buses. And he was not very favorable in their eyes a while back. He had actually gotten on a board and they had him removed because they didn't like what he had to say. And that prompted him to run for office. And now he's on the county commission. But that there may be a chance that we can get more people to listen to our plight. I sent him very extensive photos of Gulf Boulevard, wherever we are, Gulf Boulevard, Causeway Boulevard. I got in the boat, took pictures of the bridge completely backed up. I showed him everything and he said, "Oh my God, I had no idea it was like that." And so if we can get more of those pictures to Ford Pinellas, maybe they'll quit picking on us and start looking at the real problem, because it's just not fair what's happening to us. And I know we've complained about this over and over and over, but the type of complaints, our complaining system for the past 3 years was not that great. And I think that we can do a much better job by approaching them a little more delicately than trying to ram it down their throats. Yes, sir, Mr. Zabel.
Yeah, in fact, I went out with an email, I think it was last week, and it got a lot of responses. We were talking about, you know, what to do with the north-south rerouting of ways that takes you off Gulf and routes you around through our communities. And first of all, no speed bumps. People don't want those, but they're extremely upset at the traffic that it's not only there, but gets rerouted through the community. So if you can, I'll send the emails over to Kyle and Kyle can send them on to you. Those that had suggestions and just complaints about the traffic situation.
I think we're going to be discussing that particular problem in item 6. So we'll bring that right back up. Anything else anyone would like to add about the comprehensive plan?
No, thank you for going up.
And I wasn't discounting what you presented us, but I think what Mr. Davis is telling us is beware.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain direction they're trying to steer everyone towards, and there's a master plan, and we're just in the way.
I'm no fan of Forward Pinellas. When they came out and wanted us to ride, you know, they wanted to make a bike lane. And who knows, it will still happen. Bring that downtown Largo median and bike lanes all the way through to, you know, to the beach, basically, and drop the speed limit to 25. And, you know, we'll never get home if we don't have 4 lanes out there. If they're 2 lane, we'll just have a nightmare. It's going to be a mess. It got shot down, doesn't mean the plan's gone. I'm just going to forewarn everyone that you need to stay aware of what Forward Pinellas is doing.
Yep, I agree.
They want you to park your car and ride a bike.
And I guarantee you they're not.
No, and they never will.
Okay, so if that's it on this topic, thank you, Mr. Davis. Let's move on to item 3 again. Mr. Riefler, you have the floor.
Okay. So the last time when we discussed, we sort of established that the priority for the marina was agreed upon by council that it would be for residents, with property owner residents, the people who actually live in this area to utilize the asset. Since then, I've looked at a lot of information, primarily Dunedin. I discovered that they recently did they paid an outside contractor to do a survey of all the local marinas in the area, and they drafted up a report. And it's actually pretty useful information if you look at what their findings were. What I did notice that from our last resolution, was resolution 2020-19. The last time we looked at the marina and that we established what the rate increases would be and how the increments, which we went up the first year, which was 2021. And then we're coming up on our next raise, which is going to be April 1st, 2023. And then the final rate increase is April 1st, 2025. And over that span of time, it raises the residents who are at a fee of $7 per foot up to $10 per foot. And for the non-residents who were at $10 per foot, it raises them up to the $15 per foot. So that's just a recap, but from this study that I looked at, we're kind of on point for what all the other marinas are charging in this area. Whether they're charging by foot or charging by slip size. One of the issues that's been brought up is with the wait list. It was currently prioritized by the length of the vessel. If we're focusing on the residents in our community, there's some residents that have been on there quite a long time who don't plan on buying bigger boats. So if our vision is to serve their residents the best way possible, it might be to consider rearranging the wait list as far as the time they've been on there to be at the top. So if you've been on there the longest, then you're next in line. And I did some analysis just of the current lengths of boats, and if say in 20 years we accomplish this goal, because right now we're at a little over 50% of the slips are rented by local residents. There's 3 non-resident, and then the rest are non-resident property owners. They own property, but they're not actually residents. So if you say we over time, if we reshape our waitlist policy and it slips open, we start moving more of the residents who are on there into the slips. It will decrease, I laid out the numbers, it will decrease the average length of the boat in the slips. So in turn, will ultimately decrease the revenue track that we're on. There are options to reshape the amounts per slip. I did draft up some different spreadsheet that just kind of laid it out and showed how we could stay on track by charging each slip differently. If it was like by foot, so if it was 11 to 11.99, it would be one price, and then it would incrementally bump up depending on the size of that slip. So the numbers are there if we decide to go that route to bring in the same revenue projections, which would be this year, we're looking to bring in 62,000 from rental revenue per year. And by 2025, it was projected it was $70,600. So that is an option. We could do it the way we've been doing it, which is shown to be on track. But we also, if we reprioritize our wait list and how we're moving people into the marina, we're going to decrease our revenue. So we may want to consider reshaping how we charge the slips. Another thing is I looked at the rental agreement of Dunedin and just a lot of the different ideas that they have. And there's a lot of things that can be considered besides just prioritizing. There's they have rules and regs that can deal with problems that we see in the marina. One of them would be they have like a regulation that says only one family unit per can have one slip. They can't have multiple slips. They have rules that say, if the slip is vacant for such and such time, it is forfeited. Our current rules are not that strict. That's actually in our marina code. They have deposits, they have required deposits to get on the wait list. I think the residents will have no problem paying the deposit because they'll be serious and they'll have stake in the game. In turn, I think that will decrease our maintenance costs of the wait list because we have 50+ non-residents that are just throwing their name on every list. So that's something to consider. They have legacy options, someone who's been renting a slip for 10 years straight. If another slip opens, they get first dibs at moving to a slip before the next person on the list gets into that slip. So that's something to consider. And then ultimately, you know, we're in a market right now where the demand is high for a slip. And it could turn because there was 10, 15 years ago, it was different. They had trouble filling the slips. So I would always keep the non-resident option on the wait list policy. And then, you know, whatever price points we decided, just have a multiplier for that. If that it gets to a time when non-residents actually are renting the slips. So I don't know how the council feels about all this information. I can take it and I can draft what I feel would be a positive direction to manage the marina and then present it to you and then have your opinion. Or if you want to get involved with kind of each topic I've talked about, then I'm fine with that as well.
I would not have a problem at all in assisting you with that. If you're okay with that, we can work together and then present it to the council. If you're good with that,
Yes.
I'm up for the challenge.
I have a question. You were talking about residents and property owners.
Right.
We're dealing with them separately.
Yes,
Those are separate categories. So if you own a house here, if you don't live there, you go on the property owner as opposed to the resident. If you're just renting it, you go on the
Yeah,
resident.
well, I mean, I was looking at other things is. I understand about the income, and we'll probably address that through inputs to you, but really. Whatever the slip costs, that's what the slip costs. The problem was that our resident owners were not moving down the list. So the thought was, if you're a resident owner, the longest one on there, you're given the option to get whatever slip is open. If it's one of the larger ones, you'll pay that, but that's up to you. You can decline it, it goes down. The reason, you know, why we're very cautious in terms of resident owner, these are the people's skin of the game. They not only own, but they vote. They're our constituents. If you are a non-resident owner, you have other opportunities. You may have a slip at your condo down in, you know, Boca Raton. These people that live here, the resident owners, don't have that option really. So this is the only source. That's why we're very cautious about that. In fact, I don't go so far as even remove non-residents. Look, it's strictly, this is city use. Resident owners are on the list. You pay a deposit, you're on. And that's how we'll work through it. We don't lose revenue because it's your option. Look, if you want the bigger one, you know, you're next on the list, you can accept it, even with your little rowboat there. Gives you that option. Hey, I got to fill that up. It's up to you. But those are the thoughts, but I guess she'll be bringing up all these considerations. Okay. Yeah, looking forward to hearing.
That's it? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Any other comments on this topic?
Can I just add a couple of things? One is I agree with Mike with the price per slip rather than price per foot.
Mhm.
If the slip accommodates a 50-foot boat, that's the price of the boat, the slip. The other thing is we have the resident, the non-resident owner that has 2 slips. We need to kind of deal with that. I think that there should be a capacity of ones, you know, as long as we've got resident owners that want to slip, we need to, you know, maybe limit that to 1 slip. I know I understand it as being one family own 2 properties, but makes it difficult when we have people waiting for, you know, you have the one family with 2 slips. That's a difficult situation. So I think we should kind of visit that when you're looking at it. And then I don't even see a reason to maintain a non-resident wait list. If we've got
that's
that many, I
ridiculous.
mean,
Agree
don't
with all
even
that.
maintain it. I mean, at some point, if you need to open it back up, fine, but right now, there's no need for you guys to go through the hassle of dealing with
Right.
adding them to lists and coordinating and organizing all that information. It's just.
I have an idea of how to address that and I'll discuss it with you. It's way simpler than what we're maintaining two separate lists.
Yeah.
But we'll get together
Okay.
and we'll have something for the next work session.
Sure.
Does that work for you, Mr. Riepler?
Yes, I think we can do that.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Roberts?
Yeah, just a comment, I think, or a recommendation. I would approach this from like a blank piece of paper as if this marina just fell into our city. I think if you try to combine where we are today, it just gets too confusing.
Right.
The
So
only
we just-
problem with that is it's fully populated now.
I get that. And so then, once you have it set up the way you would want it set up, regardless of who's there now and who's not there now. And then there it is. This is how we want this contract to be in place. And then deal with the specifics that exist today. I mean, we could even give time periods and say, hey, if you're a non-resident property owner and you have a slip, we're going to give you 6 months. And then you have to move it. You know, I'm sure I would ask counsel, I don't know what the contract says that these people currently signed, if they even signed a contract. But we could give them a reasonable time period to say, hey, you don't really fit into our new setup, the way we defined everything. So you have X amount of time to find another place.
They sue us for grandfathering clauses or?
You're acting in a proprietary capacity here, so if you make a pivot in how you operate that facility, I think it's appropriate to give a reasonable phase, because it's
Time.
hard to find
Yeah,
a place
even a
for a
year.
vote.
My
Yeah.
slip.
But let's get them out.
You're out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you change the way you do business, then you
Yeah.
can just tell.
Well,
tell
Frank
those
out there
folks,
doing it.
"Here's your debt."
So anyway, just a thought.
No, I think that's a great thing. I mean, this is, Vice Mayor said it, that this is really a resident benefit. I mean, how many slips do we have? It's only like 50 or
Currently, we're at 18.
18. And how many residents? 1,600? I mean, and then you have one resident having 2 slips.
Yeah.
I mean,
Not resident property owner.
Limited
yeah,
resources.
yeah, but this is ridiculous. I mean, it should be resident.
Resident owners.
And 3 that are just non-resident, not property owners either, that are, so those 3 should go definitely.
Yeah.
We give them less.
I mean, there was a discussion about renters, full-time renters being able to.
Yeah, I personally, I don't have a problem with that because there are some people that probably rent and they've been here for years. So I think there should be a test that, number one, can I see your driver's license? Do you actually live here? If your license is out of state, well, you don't
Buy.
really live here.
That's
But,
right.
you know,
Yeah.
you're not, you don't immediately, you're sort of kind of put at a lower tier. And then you've got true property owners that live here year round and their driver's license says they do. And renters do the same thing. Then you've got property owners that not only are they making money off of us, but they've got a cheap place to keep their boat.
Yeah.
And
Resident owners.
and then you've got the residents or the
Resident
people that
owners.
don't live here at all. And I think the goal is to make sure that the top tier residents that live here, if there's something available, they get first dibs on it. But we also want to be cautious not to ever have an empty slip. So if we just can't rent the thing, go down the list and offer it to the guy that does not live here.
I do disagree with the statement. No, it has to be resident owners, period, end all. They got the money, they bought the house, they are part of our community. A renter,
That's what I'm saying. If you can't rent it,
He's saying if it's not,
if
filled
it's,
up,
if it's not filled up, and this is what he
yeah.
was referring
But
to,
what's
is
it,
that
what's the chances of that? Like you said, years ago, there was problems renting slips. There's.
Yes, years ago, they had a lot of open slips, and that's how the non-residents got in.
You had 2 residents here said, I think the one said he waited 7 years to get his slip.
yeah.
If I remember, I mean, we must be going back
Bill Lusk.
They don't go away. Once one gets in there, they generally stay for a long time. Is that right?
Yes,
Yeah, so,
especially now.
and that's something we need to address also. If we do have to rent to somebody that's a non-resident, maybe there's a limit on how long they can actually rent, but these are things that we'll cover.
Take a shot at it, yeah.
And I understand where everyone's going with this, and I think that,
Oh, you got this.
we also have another resource that we'll consult. I'm sure everyone knows who it is, and we'll drag him into the conversation and see if he has any input once we come up with our.
Dunedin's pretty cool.
Any other discussion on that topic? All right, we are moving right along. Now, finally,
Sean,
I'm sure that Brooke has been waiting for a while. We are now on to discussing conversion to Park Mobile. Let's see here. Council members Abel, you have the floor, and then
Okay, as last meeting we had, you wanted to see some numbers and we had an estimate built up. Two things, I guess, before we go into that is not on this estimate is a cost of about, I think it was like $7,000 to $9,000 that's expended by our current city manager in terms of time, repair costs, et cetera. And what Park Mobile cannot put in their estimate is the amount of time that instead of overhauling machines, that Kyle or his replacement will now be in City Hall for that amount, doing City Hall work instead of out in the field doing machinery work. And two, this is the time to see just what the pain threshold is for those that want to park here. Our residents are safe. They have their parking decals, they're good to go. In fact, Park Mobile gives us the ability, look, if we put in our citizens' license plates, they're clean, they don't get charged. But moving this to $5 an hour from $4. Hopefully, in some ways, reduce the traffic to these parking areas, freeing up the parking spaces for our citizens that would like to use these nice little mini parks. And then we can adjust from there. Obviously, it's very easy to do, but definitely move it up to 5. And that said, I don't know, how do we bring up Brooke? The problem is there's 2 Brooks, by the way. Through all these emails back and forth, what Brooke Bussell, Brooke Krieger?
It's all me, once my maiden name.
Oh.
You think the email system will figure it out, it doesn't.
Got it.
would you like to step up to the podium so we can see you and
That makes me
hear
feel a
you?
lot better now.
Yeah, happy to join. I have nothing prepared. I'm here just to be a resource. So you tell me what you need. I can give you kind of an overview if you want me to. So Park Mobile is we're a payment app. So it started as an app, isn't just an app anymore. Now there's text to pay. You can scan a QR code. There's a lot of ways to pay now. So not necessarily just an app, but we're in Clearwater Beach. We're in Clearwater. We're in St. Pete Beach, Tampa, all over Florida. So I don't think you'll have any trouble converting. If you even go that route, I think we kind of spoke about it. I think you should do more of a phased approach, keep your kiosks out there, add some stickers, allow people to start paying digitally, but have both options. And then what they can do with the Park Mobile app is if they've used anywhere else in the Bay Area, they've used the app, they know how to use it. Maybe they already have an account, but they can pay through any major credit card, PayPal, Apple Pay, Google Pay. So there's a lot of options there. And for anyone who doesn't have a smartphone, of course, the kiosks are still there, but then there's also a 1-800 number, so they can call that as well.
There was a question from some people saying, does Park Mobile kind of, in a sense, advertise, hey, come look at this parking space? There were fears that by going to Park Mobile, we would get more people kind of overriding all our parking lots.
Yeah, so listening to the last hour and a half, I realized we don't want more people coming here, which you can't say for a lot of the beach towns that we work with. Usually we really want to increase the parking rate. We want more people to come here because it's more money for the city. But I realize you guys are a little different. But what we can do for that is, so with the Park Mobile app, as anyone familiar, has everyone kind of seen it, used to what a payment app looks like?
Real quick, who has the app? right now? Does anybody use it okay, us three and that's it? Okay.
I'm using to have to.
Yeah, so we pull from Google Maps, so picture your Google map like you would use on your phone for GPS and stuff. So that's what we pull from. So you're gonna see all those same landmarks that you'll see, so churches, libraries, schools, restaurants, etc. And then on there are little pinpoints of those zone numbers. The zone numbers equate to maybe a street block or a lot in your case. And that's what the zone numbers would be on the map. So anyone who has the app will be able to see those pinpoints for those different zones, which would be your lots. But what we discussed is hiding those. So what we can do is not put those pinpoints. So someone who's just across the bridge or something won't see that. Otherwise, maybe they're looking for parking, they're circling around different areas, but then they see your lots available, they're coming here, right? That might not happen, but say it does. What we can do is hide them from the map so no one else can see them. But what that means is anyone on site, so they pull into the lot, the normal people who are coming here, they can still see the signs, and obviously there'll still be signs. So people can still pay, but we're not, marketing it necessarily.
Also like the ability, you have a dashboard, so if I want to throw a party and I really don't want a lot of people on the street bothering my neighbors, I have again, we're talking about the marina. Is it possible for me to provide, who's ever running the dashboard here, it's, one of the city people, just a computer interface, to type in the list of license plates and the duration and time so that they don't get charged? Just tell them, hey, parking at the marina, and we've entered into the system. I've got them there for 4 hours.
Who exactly it would be? Someone who, so you're saying someone could pay for a group of people
Well, we have
or
one of the citizens here just wants to host a party, but park people in the marina, and that'll be one of the Parkmobile locations, but doesn't want to charge them for it. You're in the city. So can they provide a list of license plates to the city, just to input in there, said for on this date for, from this period of time, these license plates will not be ticketed.
What we would do in that case is a comped parking, so a promo code essentially.
There you go.
So we would, you would work with whoever your account manager is. And then you would say, hey, on this day, the way the promo codes work, it's a specific percentage or dollar off. So let's say 100% off in this case, and then it's for a designated amount of time, and then it's for a specific zone. So a lot in this.
Okay, so that gives us the ability to take cars off our streets that we've never had before.
Yep.
While providing the free parking to the people that are attending our party.
Yeah, and that would have to go through the city. So no one could
Oh, yeah.
just, work with us directly and try to.
No, but again, it goes back to that dashboard. Really, everything's managed here at the city. They can do all the settings, the changes, anything.
Right, well, the city can, but not a resident couldn't.
Well, I'd say, what I say,
But
here,
yeah.
City Hall.
So I have a question. It's been discussed that we are able to limit the amount of time that a person can pay to park. Do they receive a warning before they do that? That says, hey, not only can you only buy 3 hours, but you can't renew. Is that possible?
Yeah. So we can mirror whatever policies you have. So any time restrictions you have, minimums or maximums. So you can restrict that for the entire city. So maybe you have a 2-hour maximum. If they park here, they can't just go, to another lot. You could have a 2-hour max for the entire city, or you could have a 2-hour max for this lot, and then they would need to go somewhere else.
Okay, and then what about time restrictions?
And-
So you can't park here after.
Oh, yeah.
time
So
of day.
maybe at sunset, you could have a hard stop. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Whatever hours, or and then whatever that hard stop means to you. In some cases, it means free parking starts at 5 p.m. Sometimes it means no parking starts at 5 p.m. So whether that's a no parking zone at a certain time or a free parking. Same thing for weekends. So if maybe your weekends are free, you could either do no parking on weekends or free parking on weekends.
And the sheriffs right now, they're actually all able to do this, and they're very experienced with it in this area.
Yeah. So we
Enforcement.
already work with a number of cities in Pinellas County, so they already know how to use the backend system. And then if you have any third-party handheld system, probably tap into that as well.
See, what the problem we were running into, and the reason why we're so strict, is because it was cheaper to come to Bel Air Beach and park your car here, walk across the street, than what you are charged at Clearwater Beach. So people were leaving Clearwater Beach, coming here, parking their car, lugging all their stuff over to the beach and staying there all day long. And we really don't like that.
Just a point of information, they don't lug their stuff, they drop their stuff off, and then one person takes the car over here.
The designated driver.
Pretty much.
Everybody. Do you have a copy of the estimate with you or?
Not in front of me, but
Do this, because I mean, that's probably the next question. It's like, okay, what is the proposal?
So I do like your explanation earlier where you said we could actually kind of bring it in and keep some of the same system we have in place. Because Kyle, you had mentioned at one time early on that you were a little concerned, I think, that people that are familiar with and only bring cash and don't have the ability to have an app, and all of a sudden, poof, it was 100% already switched over. That could be a problem for them. So if we could bring it in slowly, or whatever term you used earlier, to where it would maybe be a hybrid where people could use your system as well as still use paying cash or whatever they needed to park. Is that possible?
yeah, and we do
sure,
that
sure.
in a lot of cities. Usually what I say is, it's great because you have, it's just an added option, right? It's a no cost added option, but you still have those costs associated with the kiosk. So if your goal is to get rid of those costs from the kiosk, you're not meeting that goal, but you are adding additional options, which is still
Okay.
good. But we work with a lot of, I think you have IPS, right? So we work with that kiosk system. There's a number of them. And when I say we work with them, we can integrate our enforcement. So our transaction data and their transaction data goes to the same place. So the team who's actually enforcing on the ground has one unit that they're looking at, not multiple things. they're
Okay.
looking at.
But again, the idea was trying to at least,
Sure.
these people are expensive, time to get them back in the city.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Well,
there's some
and-
stuff.
And that goes right back to the whole argument for switching systems was that trying to solve a problem. And I think that what we're doing is we're creating a problem by having two systems, because now not only do you still have to maintain the old system,
Mhm.
but also the police will, if police or, wreckers or whatever it is, whoever's monitoring and making sure that we're or the people that are parking are behaving themselves, they're not going to know. They will have to physically get out of their vehicle and go walk the cars to see if there's a ticket. Whereas with the system, the Park Mobile app, you look at a license plate number and there it is. So there's pros and cons to both ways. I think for the residents, the people that live here, I don't think it's any problem because you pay $5 or $6 or whatever it is these days, and
Get your decal.
you just,
Get your decal.
yeah, you get your decal. It's just a matter of how do we want to treat people that are coming to Bel Air Beach to use our beach.
That's why I say, look, we gotta implement this system. I mean, frankly, I like to just crank it all over, do it, move directly over to Parkville. And $5 an hour.
Council. Yes, Mr. Banker.
How do we reconcile getting paid? Is there a printout every month with every license plate that paid and how long?
Yeah, so on the enforcement side, it's instantaneous. You'll get a constant feed of everyone who's paid, so you can enforce. But as far as the remittance, we process the payments, we charge a credit card processing for that merchant fees to our bank. And then we pay you monthly is pretty standard.
We know each license plate that parked there? Because
Have the data.
the reason I ask you this, because I take Uber and Lyft a lot of times, and this is way before Park Mobile came up. And I'm not a shy guy, so I'll talk to anybody. And I got told by a lot of Lyft drivers, especially Lyft drivers, that at the end of the month, when I get paid, I'm missing routes that I serviced. And then they have to call Lyft up and then they get into arguments. And some of these guys have just said, I'm not going to deal with Lyft anymore. Uber's a lot more friendly. So what I'm saying is, how do I know that we're getting Park Mobile's being fiscally responsible and paying us for every parked car?
Yeah, so you'll have access, probably not you guys directly, but whoever's managing parking will have access to the back end system. So you'll be able to pull your own financial reports and you can match that. Typically someone in accounting finance would match that with what we remit to you.
Yeah, that system would be right over there.
I'm just saying, I mean,
Yeah, so you'll have access
When
directly to the
electronically
data,
done, yeah.
on your dashboard, and then you can match that with what we send you.
You'll enjoy the dashboard. So you want to go to the estimate? I mean, because nobody really knows the numbers right now, and that's really where a big benefit comes up.
Yeah, so I guess the overall cost, we don't cost anything for you to set up. So we'll provide all of the signs, the integrations, all of that good stuff. So we'll set up the system for you. Our fee is onto the end user, so it's 35 cents. If they're doing $5.35. Pretty simple math there. And then the only thing the city would be on the hook for is the credit card processing fees that we charge, and that's 3% plus 20 cents, which I think is a little different because I think what you currently pay, I don't know if it's on here. I think it was like a flat 4 or 5%. So in some smaller transactions, it was a worse deal, and then some of the higher transactions was a better.
it averaged out around 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, depends on the
So
income.
I think we estimated a difference of 125
535 an hour.
for credit card processing fees based on the numbers.
How are these machines powered?
There is a road machine, so it's all digital, it's on the cloud, just software.
No, I mean, is it solar powered or do we have to provide electrical or what?
It's completely digital. It's on everyone's phone. So as long as.
No, I'm talking about you're right. There's
Yeah,
nothing there. There's no machine.
It's in the sign.
I'm still lost in, yeah.
In the cloud
The
somewhere.
two systems. Yeah, okay.
But yeah, anyone can pay as long as they have internet access. And if they don't have internet access, they can call the 1-800 number.
Council.
We get to the bottom line, I think, okay, the obvious questions are, first of all, how much did we make last year? And then really the net. And then what's Park Mobile going to deliver in terms of revenue? And then remember one delta that Park Mobile cannot put in there is the time that we're wasting, we give Kyle a raise, got the new guy, that we're taking them out of the parking arena, putting them back in City Hall. So what was the numbers again? I think we had them on there.
So we're projecting a total gain of $6,209. And that's just the difference of the maintenance because the credit card processing kind of is a wash. There's like $100 loss there. And then the gain is which is your maintenance costs. But that was just the machine maintenance, what you're paying directly to the kiosk company.
Yep.
So I don't think that's factored into what you guys are paying
So,
for
yeah, so
administrative.
you're looking at a net revenue increase of about $6,000 going over that new system, then add in the saved time. Auto, we're paying him mileage, et cetera, all that good stuff on top of that. And then finally, that's at $4 an hour. I think the mayor was talking earlier, well, sometimes we don't want people here. Fine, paying threshold. Let's see what customers willing to pay, move it to 5. And then that increase just, add.
We move that to 5, we would move the other to 5, right?
No,
I mean, why wouldn't we move it to $5 an hour if we had the current system in place?
you should do that anyway.
That's my
But-
point.
That's what I've always said. Just keep raising it until they quit coming.
Yeah, but the point is, you gotta get these guys out of the field. They should be here, not all the crap that goes on trying to fix the system in the rain at kiosk.
Did I hear you say there's a 35 cents an hour fee that goes to Park Mobile, or
It's just flat. So 35 cents for however long. they
Each
stay.
transaction.
I
Yeah.
think that should be taxed on to. If it's $5 and charge them like $5.10 an hour or what, you know what I'm saying, to recover that 35 cents.
What is our obligation? What's the time span we're obligated to try this system out?
You're not obligated to do anything. I think as far as what your time resources would be to implement the surface?
No, I'm just asking if we decide to go this route, how long are we committing to? Let's just say it doesn't work for Bel Air Beach. Or we lose revenue or
Yeah,
who knows
you
what could happen.
definitely won't lose revenue. If anything, you'll increase. It's just a question of how much. Because typically it's easier to extend your time because you can do it from your phone instead of having to come back to the kiosk. So you're gonna see more transactions because of that. Our standard contract term is 3 years. So I would say 3 years, we can go down or up depending on what you do. Some cities do 5, some do a year just to try it out if you want. But again, there's no upfront cost, so you're not really losing anything by adding it. That's my sales pitch.
Well,
And you can have I mean, contracts are to be negotiated, and I'm the
Yeah.
procurement guy, so it could be 3 years or 10 years. If you have a termination for convenience clause, you could give them their 30 days notice and they're gone. Not to undercut your.
That's our standard in our contract.
It's obviously it's successful just about everywhere now.
my thoughts are is if we switch, we won't switch back, but we're on a hard break, 7:30. Can we take 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we? We should.
Thanks. Oh, got it all in 10 minutes too. Amazing.
Efficient.
2 courses of happy birthday too.
Tom.
All right, we're back and we're right back onto the Park Mobile discussion. Does anyone else have other questions before I survey the group, see if we have a consensus on this?
I have a couple questions. I'm making an assumption that these numbers, these hours came from
Our actual data that we have, I pulled from our current meetings.
2022, is that right?
It was the last fiscal year's data I used for
Okay.
full fiscal year.
And we charge different rates at different locations right now, is that right? Is
No,
the
it-
park, I mean, so I thought the beach was a little more expensive than. some
It
of the
used
other
to
parks.
be, not anymore. Now it's $4 during the week, and I believe it kicks up to 5 on the weekends, yeah.
And that's
So-
at all of our parking areas.
That's all the parking
I'm
areas.
playing tennis right now. It's $4, right?
It's $4 right now. And this lot, you can technically pay for parking 24 hours. Every other lot has restrictions on it.
What are the limits? What are the parking restrictions on the others?
So
you know?
Morgan Park's at 9 o'clock, closes, it opens at 6 AM. And then Bayside Park is, I believe, 6 to, I'd have to check that. I believe it's 11 is Bayside.
Do we have though, I thought Morgan was gonna have a limit on how long you could park there too. Is that not the case?
It does, well, it has a limit of how much you can pay for at one time.
And you can come back and put more in, right?
You can pay up to 3 hours, but people can come back and
With the thought
repay.
process, they could only stay 3, our thought was we were trying to get them in and I just remember this being
so we didn't have the,
pet peeve on previous council about making sure we only allowed them to stay a certain amount of time.
We wanted to make it inconvenient, so they had to keep coming back and feeding the meter.
Right.
with Park Mobile, we can actually limit the total time they can park during that day. As opposed to with the cash meters, we couldn't restrict that. They could come back and pay another 3.
Morgan Park didn't work because it coincided with bathroom breaks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then what about holidays? Do we have an option to charge more on holidays or no?
On the current meters?
Yeah.
We could set that up in the programming.
Okay,
We
but
never
don't.
did. No.
Yes.
So Kyle, it sounds like, so just making the assumption that the revenue is not going to be less than what we're getting.
Right.
How do you feel as a city manager? What's your preference?
I'm leaning towards the Park Mobile.
Okay.
I believe that's the way everything's gonna eventually be.
Mhm.
And it makes sense and a lot of firsthand experience with dealing with the meters that we have now and the maintenance.
Got it.
Yes, Mr. Bankert.
Not to get off the subject, but Morgan Park, wasn't it originally, I think the vice mayor once told me before she was vice mayor that weren't we supposed to have dedicated like 4 spots?
We had 2. We had 2 dedicated spots.
2, or was it 4 originally?
I thought there were 2.
But there's none now.
That's right.
Can't we go back to getting something like that for residents that live around there?
No.
Put 4 dedicated spots in there.
I think the reason we didn't was because we got state money or federal money
Oh, yeah.
to fix it, to fix Morgan Park, and so you couldn't discriminate.
I was told it was because of beach renourishment and I'm like, at this point, if we're not getting beach renourishment,
what I
then
was
take our
told.
spaces back.
That's what I heard.
Sorry?
Yeah.
You'll
Yeah,
never
it's
get those
federal or
spaces
state
back.
money.
No,
We're
that's
we're
the problem.
stuck.
When you give something up, you'll never
We're
get it back.
stuck.
I think it was only a 10-year agreement though. So after, if we don't get beach renourishment, then
I thought those easements were, oh, well, you're talking about the park. Never mind.
Yeah.
The easements, that's forever.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, any other questions?
I have a comment. On break, I checked with my resident expert about the credit card processing fee if Park Mobile serves as merchant of record. And my resident expert stated that's a good deal. It locks in a rate that can't fluctuate. So food for thought if going with Park Mobile versus looking at another merchant services provider.
My thoughts on this is, we probably, the revenue will temporarily go down with the regulars. Because people are gonna, I don't have the app, and then they're mad and, whatever, but, I think eventually everyone that uses our lots they'll just download the app. Everybody uses apps for everything and, except Kyle, he doesn't.
Only when I need to. I don't keep it on my phone. I delete it.
Anyway, I'm all for this, if the council is. So, Leslie?
I wasn't for it, but if Kyle as the city manager says he's in favor of it, I'll go with him.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
I'm definitely in favor of it. I just think we need to revisit how we're pricing parking.
And I think, we have to vote on this anyway. We'll have to approve you to
Yep.
sign the contract. So, we'll have something more definitive in writing and a preview before. How long do you think? Will this be the next meeting or do you need longer or?
Brooke,
What do I think? We can, well, it depends on how you want to procure. So you can piggyback off of any of the contracts going on right now. In Pinellas County, we're actually negotiating a contract currently that should be done pretty soon in Pinellas County for the county parks. So you could probably just piggyback off of that one. Or we can do a direct agreement, whatever makes the most sense. But obviously all of those options, different timing, admin for you guys.
we would prefer to piggyback for our purchasing policy.
Yep.
But if they already have local contracts in place, yeah, the next meeting, if there's nothing restricting you, I think it could be on the next meeting agenda.
Okay. As long as we have enough warning and we can read the contract, then I think more than likely we won't have a problem. And if we do, well, we'll stall it until we get it worked out. That satisfy you?
I think that's great. Do we need to talk about what that pricing looks like so that when we get the contract signed, we can move forward right away, or will we then have another meeting to vote?
Pricing for your parking? Well, you're not committing to pricing for your parking to them. You're just committing, we get 35 cents, whatever.
I know, no, that my question was along those lines. If we want to implement this quickly, especially with spring break coming, do we want to hash out the cost of parking now? So once we get the contract signed, we can implement it as quickly as possible.
I think that's all done on the app, which will be in there. He just goes up to the machine and goes, there's your new amount right there. Start it.
The council needs to
This
have a concession.
She's asking for a concession on the rates we're going to charge. And that's where we don't want to do that during a regular council meeting. We want to know in advance what we're doing.
So it's
So
part of what gets on the next agenda. In other words, if we're approving that, we're approving the price of parking and we just.
Yeah,
hit the ground
Are you
running.
proposing something for a rate right now or?
Well, and
think I
knowing
was,
that
yeah.
I think Mike did, but knowing that we're already charging $5 on the weekends.
I didn't know that, yeah.
Then probably if you're going that dollar more, then
6 on weekends, 5 on weekdays.
yeah, and holidays and throwing holidays there.
Because right now Clearwater gets $50 for the day, when they park it. $50 a day to park at some of the beach hotels.
and some of them, some of them, they'll $6 an hour in big bold words.
What's the
And
deal?
little tiny after you've reached the point of commitment and you can't turn around, minimum 3 hours.
Then I'm good with having that as the base, $6 base and.
Yeah, I mean, $50 a lot. I mean, go through there.
No, I'm good with
Weekend.
the 6 of anything you want, you guys want to do.
I think $6 is cheap.
On, sorry, can I interrupt? I don't know. Kyle and I were crunching some numbers. If we moved the estimate to a $5 per hour rate instead of the $4, if you're following along on the sheet, that first number you see in the first paragraph, that 832, the average transaction, we would turn that into 1052. So we're adding $2 because that's an average $2.
Mhm.
That would make your total credit card revenue 227,814 instead of that 181 that you're seeing. So less all the fees and all the math. Mike, I'll give this back to you so you can have it in front of you. That's a total increase in revenue of 19%, about $40,000 that you can expect. So your total credit card net after our fee would be 216 instead of that, I think 178. There's, that's just based on the $5.
I have no problem with the $5 an hour rate, except for the people that walk the bridge in the early mornings. Parking lot's not full and they're doing something healthy. And I don't, down there is another story. But here, I think that a slightly reduced rate in the wee hours of the morning while they're walking the bridge, I have no problem with that at all.
I had proposed that we do like downtown St. Pete does, that you don't start paying until 9 o'clock or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I got blasted by residents, so I'm just telling you that. So
Well,
just, I'm gonna preface it with that. So
yeah, well, I don't
I'm
have a
giving
problem with
way-
that either, but I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So I'm up for a reduced rate or a no rate up till 9
8
o'clock,
o'clock,
8 or 9,
yeah.
probably
They're
8,
gone.
because really beyond
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
it
6
becomes
o'clock.
attractive to the beach.
right.
And so thoughts, what do you think?
Yeah.
I like that.
No rate
$5
reduced,
during the
what?
week.
Monday through
sounds great.
Friday,
Yeah.
update, free.
Okay,
Yeah. But the residents would pay nothing, right? If they have a
Right.
decal.
That's all right.
Yeah.
And it also gives them the option, you can provide a list of license plates,
Sure.
so it gets people off our streets and
Yeah.
park over there
Okay.
for free.
okay, so let's jot this down right quick, beginning 8 o'clock. Monday through Friday, it's free, before 8,
At City
Rather.
Hall, yeah.
free here. And then after 8, it's $5 an hour.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Monday through
Right.
Friday, $5 an hour.
Till what time?
So this one's 24, isn't it?
Yeah, so what I'm saying is we don't want people parking here at 9 o'clock at night and leaving their car here till 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, there's Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
yeah. So what's our cutoff currently at night
Here?
here? We don't have one, do we?
Yeah, 24 hours.
Okay, so when do we want to either stop or switch over to a free rate?
4 a.m. to 8 a.m.
4 to 8.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the time up till 4 o'clock in the morning, it's $5 an hour. Okay,
And we should have a substantial increase on a weekend rate.
Oh, I
And I'm not talking
And
$6.
holidays.
I'm
No, and
talking-
holidays.
Yeah, like $7-10 an hour, you know?
At least at Morgan Park.
$10 an hour is not unreasonable.
Holidays,
Yeah,
holidays and weekends, $10 an hour.
what you go around the other parking lots, they're getting it.
They're getting it.
okay, right now I'm dealing with
Okay.
here, so it's free from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. and then from 8 a.m. to 4 a.m. it's $5 an hour. And on the weekend, do we want a different rate just for here?
Here and the beaches.
Well,
Okay.
I want
For
to
here-
separate here from there because it's really is two separate entities.
But on the weekend, they use this parking lot for one reason, to go to 12th Street or 6th Street.
But weekends and holidays.
Or to play tennis.
Yes.
We're talking residents can play tennis all they want
Residents-
because they got
sure.
stickers and decals when
Yeah.
they walk. So $10 an hour.
On just, so it's $5 down there during the week. We just make it all the same. And then on the weekends, it's $10 an hour.
Yes.
10 an hour
Nice.
and holidays.
We could change it later on if we want to, but let's give that a shot. See what the,
See what the paying threshold is.
Yeah.
And again, because these people are not citizens.
Great.
Well, remember, we're a residential community. We don't have hotels.
Well, you're talking about trying to bring in revenue. I think this is a good way of,
Absolutely.
That's why I approach it like that, yeah.
Heard more
So yeah,
about
$10
the
an hour.
conversation.
Holidays and weekends.
Miss Livingstone,
Yes, sir.
I see you laughing. Okay, so what's your thoughts on these rates?
No, I'm in complete agreement. You know, the whole idea of having Bel Air Beach and living here is for the residents to enjoy. So weekends, holidays, $10, and the rest of the time, the proposed was at $6.
Yeah.
So
Okay, and
It's a
we
times
have,
five, right?
what is our operating hours at Morgan Park
6 AM to 9 PM.
to 9 PM?
Yes.
Okay. And okay, so the weekends here, because we're open 24 hours, are you still charging $10 per hour
Yeah.
all night long?
Yes.
You good with that?
I guess we'll give it a try and see what happens. Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, I know definitely the beach, I'm fine with it, and the marina for overflow beach parking, but you know, here I kind of go, but it's still the same thing. Yes, I'm gonna say yes.
okay.
You
all
convince
right.
yourself. It's good.
No, I'm. with the 10 other than-
At City Hall, do we allow them to pay to go longer than
Okay.
3 hours?
So Saturday morning at 4 AM, the rate increases to $10 per hour. All right,
Saturday morning. Oh, no, we're still.
I would
doing
say
the
8 o'clock.
weekend.
8
We're
o'clock.
still doing the
that's what I was talking about. That's why I was saying the walkers here, $10 an hour to walk our bridge.
Oh.
We're still doing the.
Yeah, from 4 to 8.
Okay, so there's still the 4 to 8,
Regardless.
7 days.
Okay.
and that was, we said free, right?
Right.
From 4 to 8. It's getting confusing yet?
No.
Do we have a time limit for 3 hours at this lot, or do we allow, because we don't have a
I would,
completely full problem here?
you know, if we're charging $10 an hour and they want to pay it,
Let 'em
I'm
stay.
gonna stay all day.
We became friendly.
Yeah. You thought about
Well, we're looking for ways to increase revenue, and if it turns out it's a problem, we can always dial it back.
That's right.
So
The pain.
7 days a week between 4 AM and 8 AM, these two lots are free. Down there, it's $5 Monday through Friday, but Saturday and Sunday, it's $10 an hour. After 8 AM all day long till 4 AM, it's $10 an hour here on the weekends.
And holidays, yeah.
Everybody good with that?
Yes, sir.
So
Did we just?
And that can all be
Answer your
set up,
concern.
right? In the app.
It's gonna change it, and as often as.
Yeah, yeah.
So we can vote on it and go.
And that can be done by resolution, right?
So we can do that. I could bring it as an agenda item once I have the contract all put together, and you guys can vote.
Okay, so it'll be two separate items.
If, let me double check. I don't think we did the parking fees by a resolution. I think they were just set by council.
I think last time we did the rate by resolution,
Okay,
but
I'll check that out.
I just want to make sure that there, well, obviously they would have to be completely separate anyway, because otherwise the other one would have to be modified every time we
Right.
wanted to change the rate.
In the marina.
Yes. Okay, any last questions for Ms. Brooke here?
We just, Frank just brought up a pretty good point, said we talked about those overnight renters and they park over in the marina because there's no available parking there. Hey.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right, there's always something,
Yeah.
a new way of looking at things.
By the way, thank you for coming down from Atlanta.
We appreciate it.
She lives up in Atlanta. She's
No,
down.
don't worry, I'm not.
Oh, come on, she got a free trip to see her parents.
Exactly. Cool.
All right, so now,
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I definitely.
thank you again.
Thank you.
It's been very nice meeting you. All right, now we are on to item number 5. This one was placed on the agenda by Councilmember Roberts, something about discussion of placement of bricks at the community center for the Bel Air Beach Community Foundation Brick Program.
Say something, right?
Yep, and I know this is not our particular project, but my only concern is, and Kyle, so right now we have enough bricks with people's names on them for one rectangular section. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so we've got that set up.
Yeah.
So what I want to avoid, if possible, is, let's say Frank signs up tomorrow. And it may take 4 months before we get a large enough section of bricks to take care of that rectangular removal of concrete. So here's my proposal, because I don't want to see that happen. So somebody's waiting, I paid for my brick. Why am I not seeing it? You know, and we don't know how long it's going to take. It's unknown if we're taking out a whole section of concrete, right? So here's what my proposal is.
We do have something in the contract that said that they, BBCF would not request a brick installation for more than one time in 6 months. So we do know that's going to be a 6-month period. You're going to have to wait. And that was for maintenance purposes.
Well, here's a suggestion that I think may work better. And I don't know exactly how the process is going to work for the people that actually do the engraving on the brick. But if this was my world, I would go ahead. So right now we have a section we're going to take out of the sidewalk, right?
Yes.
And we're going to put the bricks in there. Beautiful. So that's perfect. So now I would already have the second.
Like that is where we took the idea. And the reasoning for this being, at first, which we designed it slightly different. With the BBCF, memorial brick or whatever in the middle. This is a plan to have 20 of the regular size bricks plus the BBCF in the middle.
Okay.
The reason we went with this idea is because it was a new program. We didn't know exactly what the demand for the bricks were going to be.
Of
We wanted
course.
to kind of establish something that we could commit to, and that's what it was sold on.
Well, that even makes, I think, my thought better. So
Okay.
we're not taking out a complete section of the sidewalk, just the center of it. Basically, based on that picture. you had,
Yes,
right?
for at least the first set. That was just the idea. We can always
Sure,
change design.
right,
Anyway.
right. But what I would do then for that next segment, I would go ahead and cut that out now and put the bricks in there without the names on it. And so then
Yeah.
Frank signs up, we take a brick out, take it to the engraver.
Yeah.
The engraver does the work, we put that baby back in
But
there,
it's safe in the interim.
Yeah, of
Walk
course.
on it.
That's,
and there it is.
that's how IRB has it. Because,
Is it?
yeah, because when I got a
Like
brick
what?
down there,
Yeah,
it was installed in probably less than 3 weeks.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, if we
Pull
can do
brick
that, I
out,
think it
when
makes sense, just so that we're not waiting 6 months.
Hmm.
You know, somebody's already forked out the $250 or whatever it is, can't remember what it is. So now it's taken care of, I mean, right away, because the foundation has already bought the bricks. So they're put in place, and then I'm assuming they
Okay.
have an engraver. Right, so you just pull the brick out and tell them, okay, I'm bringing a new brick over, here's
Okay.
how we want it done.
They ship the bricks engraved, so we would just have dummy bricks
Yeah.
in the meantime.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we could do that. And again, it's not that many bricks
Yeah.
that we could have dummy bricks in there.
The Botanical Gardens does that.
It
the same thing.
sounds to me like it would be kind of sloppy, right? Because you're pulling a brick out and you're
Oh, no.
putting one in and then and there are gonna be variations, whereas if you did them all at one time, it's a nice, smooth.
It's not really that
Not a
difficult.
trip
It's like
hazard.
pavers. You take a paver out, you put another, you put the sand in, compact it, put the other paver right back there. You don't know the difference.
They're not, they're floating.
No, there should be tamped. You should have
Tamped,
at least a 3 to 4 inch base tamp.
Exactly.
Okay, and then when you're just popping bricks.
Yeah, you just have a little hook.
And then you have to re-sand the top. part.
There's sand in between.
But that's minimal.
I just think it would be, I don't want people to have to wait that long. It kind of loses the impact. Like Frank said, so he participated in one down the road.
IRB,
A couple of
Botanical
weeks.
Gardens, yeah.
You had your brick in there and you walked on it and showed people and said, hey, look at my brick. Isn't
So
that cool?
let me get this straight. You take the burden of the meters off of him and then you give him bricks back. Well-
They're doing it.
Spent a lot more time putting a brick in.
How many have they sold?
Right now, I think they've done the full 20.
20 bricks.
Yeah, and that's gonna take up that one rectangular
Yes.
section. Perfect.
They have more than 20. You know,
I can get an update. but they might have sold a couple more. I don't know.
Okay.
And we should all be telling people about this and making sure that all of our buddies are buying bricks.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I got one.
I bought
I got
10.
a
I want a
check.
whole sidewalk.
Don't forget grandkids.
All right, just an idea. So I think, so you're saying the same company that we buy the bricks from also does the engraving? But they do it,
Yeah,
At the
they do
same
it all
time.
at once and then
Right.
ship the brick.
okay,
Well, they ship, there's a minimum amount, but it's free shipping at that point. So that has to do with that as well.
I wonder why we don't get the bricks engraved locally. Hmm.
I can tell you why. It's because that's whenever they went online and they looked around, they found a company that could do it. And they had the website to support it and it was ready to go. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it was the least amount of trouble for
sure.
the amount of people that are on the foundation.
Okay. That was my thought. I just wanted to speed up the process for people getting a brick.
Okay.
So, like we said, we'll look into, depending on how fast these bricks are selling, but if bricks are selling quicker, we'll look for a way to, like he was saying, have actual space done and then be able to pop it out at
Yeah.
a certain time. So.
Yeah, because it's pretty easy to do that. You know, just sand, Let's put more sand on.
So you're volunteering.
Sure, I'll do it.
Right. Cool.
Come on. Little screwdriver.
Any other discussion on the bricks before we move on to our last item?
Need to say that.
Hmm.
Okay, we are on to item number 6, discussion of right angle turn located at 19th Street and Bayside Drive. This was placed on the agenda by City Manager Reefler.
Yes, I placed this on the agenda because I included an email correspondence with a resident who lives in the area of 19th Street and Bay Shore Drive. Who I met 3 months ago for the first time, and he had said that he's expressed his concern about this corner for a very long time. And his main thing is that he sees the cut through traffic, primarily people just trying to get around quicker and taking this right angle turn, as fast as they can. A lot of times coming out of the actual side of the road, the lane they're supposed to be in. There's no line of sight issue with that corner, but the speeds that he describes people taking the turn, it does present a danger if somebody was walking their dog or just walking in general on the street and coming around the corner, or another car trying to do the same thing. And it sets up a bad situation. So I told him I would look into it, and that's, you can see in the email, I talked to some public works departments. I talked to traffic engineers. I talked to our contracted engineer just to get some ideas. The general consensus was he proposed a stop sign. When I asked opinions to the professionals I talked to, they told me that it is not in the recommendation for the national recommendation for traffic signs to use a stop sign or a yield sign as a speed control device. So my final reach out was to an engineering company, and they said that they would, in their mind, and they offered me free advice without having to pay them anything, but they said that they would if they did a study there, they wouldn't be recommending a stop sign. So I was, based on the information I had, I emailed back telling them like I'd feel more comfortable progressively stepping it up to maybe get to a stop sign, but I didn't feel like jumping right to a stop sign was ideal. And what I was basically recommending was something like this. He was asking about the speed. I told him I went and drove it, and 10 miles an hour seemed like a good speed to, if you were just driving normally and something that you didn't expect happened, you'd be able to stop.
Can you make that turn at 10 miles per hour?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what you did. Yeah.
You could make it faster, but it wouldn't be safe.
Because it's just a left turn.
Yeah, or a right.
You hammer it pretty good. It's widened enough.
But there's no right turn. You turn in someone's driveway.
If you're going the opposite
Be going
direction.
the other
Yeah.
way.
Oh,
So-
Could we put an island in there? We got islands at the end of some of our streets.
Those islands have created more problems.
yeah,
Really?
They
we don't want
have.
an island.
Yeah.
As I say, you take that turn and
There was a traffic calming policy, I think, before I got on council in 2020, which has an appendix A in it, which provides a host of different things to, curb traffic going into neighborhoods. Some of them are speed tables, which
they don't want.
well, you might want to do a speed table at the crosswalk rather than on the street. So when you're turning on there, you're gonna have to go up a little bit of a ramp. It might deter people. A stoplight somewhere in there. It's our street. I think.
There it is,
I think we could put can't. Does FDOT really get involved if we put a stoplight on that street someplace?
Not on our private
Yeah,
roads.
that's what I'm saying. So
There's a
different
cost.
ideas, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm aware that there's a problem going down Bayside Drive, or not Bayside, but Bay Shore. I say that right?
This is Bayside.
Bay- Bayside,
yeah.
Bayside. Sorry,
I
I
have a
get
typo on
confused
the
sometimes.
agenda.
Anyway,
Those are good, Bayshore, but
they do fly down that road and they'll do rolling stops across 22nd
Yep.
and they'll just keep on trucking. The problem is that we've been down this road. Vice Mayor Shirley we've had this conversation. Frank has been part of this conversation. This is not anything new, but the minute that you try to do something to curb the speed, people don't want it. So they want everybody else to slow down, but they don't want to be inconvenienced with speed tables, speed humps, speed, anything like that. They also don't want the radar signs that light up whenever you're going too fast. I figured that one out because
Feedback signs.
we did some survey. They don't like that. I like the idea of the no through sign. I
Mhm.
think that that's a good idea, and I wouldn't mind seeing those on more of our streets.
Right.
Because there's gonna be maybe one vacationer a year who's gonna read that sign and actually heed to it and go, oh, I'm not turning down there because it says no through. But that's something to consider. And as far as the stop sign goes, I don't think that I would, if you're looking both directions, I would not consider putting one making the right turn on the 19, because I don't think the majority of people are cutting through there to avoid traffic, because it's an inconvenience to make a left turn off of Gulf Boulevard,
Yeah.
get into that neighborhood, then head south, and then you still have to fight traffic to get back out into it. It's only convenient for people heading to Clearwater Beach. So if we did a stop sign at all, only the one approaching Bayside would be the only one that I would even consider.
There's one,
And-
hibiscus.
And I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. But I'm really surprised somebody's not ran through that intersection right into the bushes
Right. Or
That's-
the house at the end.
or the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, I live right on 20th Street. So Kyle and I talked about it a little bit previously. And I've looked at it multiple times. So I think everybody understands what we're talking about here. So if you're coming off of, there's actually two problems in my view. You're coming north on Gulf Boulevard and you take a right on 19th Street. Then it goes down and there's a house there in the corner, and the only way you can go at that point is left.
Yep.
Onto Bayside. So people have a tendency right there to also be going too fast
Mhm.
and not make the 90. So they kind of just
Cut
curve
the
it around.
apex.
Right? So they just make a soft turn into there.
Yeah.
So they have an opportunity to have a head on with somebody coming the other direction
Right.
because they're not really thinking it through well. Also, you have somebody heading south on Bayside, and they're making the right-hand turn because Bayside dead ends into 19th. So they also are going too fast typically, and they're swinging too wide. So they're on the wrong side of 19th. And that's where the two head-ons can happen. So I don't think it's 100% due to when we have the heavy traffic. It's just normal times. You know, people just going home or whatever they're doing, and they're cutting that corner both directions. And they could hit other cars and or they could hit people that are walking with their dogs and that type of thing. So I just wanted to make that point that it's not really necessarily due to the time when we have heavy beach traffic going to Clearwater, because that's a whole nother issue. When I was campaigning, somebody said, yeah, people come down here and they're avoiding the traffic on Gulf Boulevard and they're flying on whatever roads are parallel to the intercoastal.
Yeah.
And they're just flying down that road. And as I was talking to this guy, somebody came by in like a juiced up Ford Mustang going about 65, just right down the road. And I thought, wow. I mean, if somebody, a kid went out in front, no way they're getting out of the way in time. But this doesn't have anything to do, I don't think, with the heavy beach traffic stuff that's going on. This is normal where he has a problem with this.
It's more the people who live there who are
Yeah.
used to that corner.
Correct.
Who-
Right.
Correct.
This is the way I do it all the
Well,
time.
one thing I can tell you about that intersection is that if you think you're doing yourself a favor by going down to 19th, making a right turn and coming out on the Gulf Boulevard,
Okay.
that's not the best place to pull out at. And I think you're gonna get out
At the island,
faster
yeah.
if
Not this time of year.
more north you go.
I'd go to Hibiscus and still, yeah, because those are the north south Bay Shore and Hibiscus, they come back and
I
then
mean,
onto
just
Hibiscus.
because it's in there crossing just right close to there.
19th Street.
Yeah, there's an island.
Okay,
right.
well, that's my point is
Right.
that it's difficult to get out of there anyway.
It can
And
be.
and so I think the people that live here are probably, maybe some of them are going down there, but not, it can't be that many, not like it is,
Probably just the people that live on that street.
probably so,
Yeah.
probably so.
Yeah.
That's why I was in favor of one stop sign and not two, because I didn't think the one at the very end was necessary unless cars start running into the guy's yard there, which I don't think we've seen that yet.
So you're saying put it on Bayside or put it
No,
on
on
19th?
the end of 19,
End of 19th. Okay, so you're making the left-hand turn.
yes.
And before you
So
make
you
the
have to
left-hand turn,
stop, look, and make
and
the
make your
left.
left-hand turn.
And that would be my recommendation, but according to Kyle's sources, they're saying, nah, that's not gonna help anything. Well, how could it not slow down traffic?
They're just saying it's not recommended. I feel like I can see your point, you stop traffic and then it's a matter of like enforcing it as well.
And you were not in the meetings at the time, but and several of you weren't, but whenever we did have these conversations about, well, what can we do about speeders? I think because occasionally this comes up, you have somebody gets overly vocal. It's fully justified what they're complaining about, but their neighbors they don't get buy-in from the neighbors. And so I think the last time we had this conversation about changing anything, where it was a flashing light or a speed table or anything to do that it's a inconvenience to drive down your own street, it would require a petition and they would have to lobby their neighbors and everybody would have to agree that, okay, let's take this to the council and let them vote on it, because otherwise we don't know what we're talking about.
Mm.
And then would it make sense to do a traffic study? I mean, this is always the time of the year where we get these same complaints but that is in an intersection we've done a study on that they could, put some speed indicators out there and see if, how fast people are making that turn.
Yeah.
Is it really an
I
issue?
did have the sheriff do one of their boxes. They did not find speeding to be the issue, but that's because you really can't go
Can't go that
over the speed
fast.
limit around that corner.
Yeah, that's
Impressive.
It'd be interesting to see what the average speed was
Yep.
going around the corner or something like that. I'm sure
He did give me some numbers. I'll share that with you.
that would be
Send
helpful
it.
to see. I mean,
Yeah.
Give me
I
a half
think,
hour to warm my tires. I'll show you.
Another thing is the guy that's complaining, is he to the right of the intersection?
I think he's
He lives
right
on
at-
19th, not right on the corner, but a little bit to the west.
Okay.
on the
so
right side of
On
the
the
street.
left-hand
looks
would it be
like-
the second house? If you
Sorry.
start at the very corner, the great big house, is it the one next door?
So if you're at 19th and Bay Shore, it would be not the one on the north west corner of the turn. It would be on the north side of 19th, up one from the house right on.
Okay, all right.
on the turn.
Because it could turn out that he's asking you to, or, you know, we decided to put a stop sign in somebody's yard that just lose their minds because now they've got a great big stop sign right next to their driveway or something. So that's something to consider also.
Look at the lot line. Typically we'll put it right on the lot line if possible, so it's not in somebody's front yard.
Yeah, now you get to hear all the trucks stopping and starting all night long.
The
I think Kyle's idea of kind of stepping it makes sense. You know, so if you want to start with something that's less than a stop sign and see if that has a positive impact on people driving, like letting them know, hey, slow down to 10 miles an hour because you're coming up on a 90-degree turn. And if you don't slow down to 10 miles an hour, you're going to have difficulty making that turn cleanly without pulling into the other lane. And that's the problem.
Or you still have, you know, somebody's still gonna get a big sign, right, you know, right there at their house and, they may
Well, we
not.
can put it where the walking path used to be. It'll be fine.
Yeah, and
That's
that,
true.
the warning sign doesn't need to be exact like a stop sign does.
Okay.
Right. Be further up.
And I definitely like the idea of the no through traffic
Mhm.
because it can't hurt.
Mm.
Now, I talked to the sheriff deputy and he said that we can put no through traffic signs and they can stop vehicles that they suspect are through traffic, but they will not be able to issue a citation unless we change our ordinance for something that they can reference.
I think this council would have no problem doing that.
I would be in favor of starting out with what the sheriff's office has recommended, the arrow in the 10 miles per hour sign. See if that helps. If it gets,
And a change of the ordinance,
Pardon?
and a change to the ordinance
I don't know if we have to change our ordinance for that.
for enforcement.
No, for the through traffic.
Yeah.
That's where the no through.
Well, see, it's a
Right.
two section approach. As you're turning in to 19, immediately they see that no through traffic sign. And then they get down to the end and you've got to slow down to make that left turn. I think it'd be something worth looking into. And then if we wanted to change the ordinance to support the signs after they were in, I would not be opposed to that at all.
Yeah.
Council?
I like that. I just like to say, pick up hibiscus as well, because that's another straight through.
Oh, yeah, down they start there and then they don't know where to go. They just
Yeah.
start flying down
Yes.
hibiscus trying to,
Okay.
I checked into Waze too, and Waze will go, if it's a public street, they have to show it. It comes from the same database.
So that's the two, it's those two streets.
Can you put a residence only and delivery only sign? Would that? Is that lawful?
Yeah. It's all gonna come down to enforcement. I
Right,
mean, because the deputy's gonna be like, well,
Mm.
you know, okay, now I gotta make them prove that they're a resident, and then they're gonna say, well. we
Well,
visit-
you can actually tell a story and say, no outlet, there's no outlet on this road.
I'm gonna sit out there and hibiscus.
I wanted to put
Yeah,
like
Joe.
a thing on the bridge, it shows it's just water and the
Yeah,
residents good, but
yeah.
no, if you put like non-residents or not allowed. We have to encourage those people to buy those beach stickers on their cars, and it's an easy thing for the sheriff to say, hey, they got the beach sticker.
Yeah, but
The
it's a
residents.
residential road, and so what are you gonna do whenever Aunt Bessie comes to visit
Right.
you and,
Yeah.
you know,
Or a
she's gonna
fire
get
department
handcuffs
or-
because she's not a resident.
and I'll just use Bel Air as I got pulled over in Bel Air going to my office, you know, because that Indian Rocks Road is closed
Yeah.
and they said I rolled through a stop sign and didn't even get my driver's license. You still live on Bel Air Beach? You know, like he knew I didn't live in Bel Air. Probably part of the reason he pulled me over and didn't give me a ticket or anything, but you know, just and that's probably we need to enforce the rolling through the stop sign at Bay Shore and 22nd.
Second.
You should
Yeah.
have brought your Porsche.
So,
Personally, I think if you're coming, Kyle, I know you have that as an example that shows the left-hand turn.
Yes,
there.
yeah.
I mean, if I'm coming down Bayside and I'm heading south, that's the more difficult turn. That's the bigger problem, making the right-hand turn.
Mhm.
Because centrifugal force is pulling you out there. You know, you're going up to speed. You're trying to make that turn, you're out. It's too late. If you're coming down 19th, heading towards the Intercoastal Canal.
You're already in the outside.
Again, you're in the
lane.
outside lane. That force is taking you out here. Less of an opportunity, I think, to cause a problem. I think the bigger problem is Bayside. Slow that person down because they're making that 90-degree turn. That's a tougher turn, period.
I mean, I see what you're saying, but also, I mean, if someone's trying to take a left-hand turn fast from the outside lane, they're just gonna cut that corner
They could,
shy to make it
Right.
and drift out.
but that's a definite decision they made to cut the corner.
Mhm.
The person that's making that right-hand turn, they're going 50 miles an hour. They've already made the decision. They're going too fast.
Mhm.
They're gonna swing out. They can't make the right-hand turn.
Bank roads. and-
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, that's,
Put the berms
Yeah.
like Formula One. You know.
I would like to hear what Kyle's suggestion is. What is your recommendation?
I'm
Based
still
on
where I
everything that
was-
we said, what
I'm
would you?
still where I was at. If my recommendation would to be incrementally try to solve the problem, and then if it's not working, then reassess it and see what we can do.
I don't think the council has to vote to approve you
No.
putting a sign somewhere. So what are you doing exactly? Which sign are you putting in and where's it going?
I would put a left turn and a right turn with a recommendation of 10 miles an hour.
Both sides.
Directions.
Okay.
And then because you mentioned the no through signs, I want to look into those and start with putting those signs up.
Good
And then
choice.
move forward with an ordinance to be able to enforce.
And then what about
Hibiscus.
hibiscus?
Which part of hibiscus?
Well, actually, it goes from west to east. It's a straight line through. You got Bay Shore across, I think, 21st, and then it goes north-south is Hibiscus now.
Where do they enter on Harrison or where are they entering at? So, because.
They can exit at Harrison or enter at Harrison.
Yeah, so you probably need it Harrison and then, I mean, I guess you could put it on Bay Shore as well.
I think
So,
we just try one though for now. I mean.
Okay.
well, okay, so you've
Yeah.
got you have a stop sign on hibiscus already, stopping at Harrison.
To Harrison, yes.
Okay,
Okay,
and what you and it's straight or you make a right turn onto hibiscus. So
This west and then.
you probably get I passed and went across the
No, I mean, to
bridge.
get to, like you coming from Gulf Boulevard, you have to take a feeder road to get to
Right.
Hibiscus. So what is that feeder road? Is the no through traffic out at Gulf Boulevard at the feeder road, or is it on Hibiscus?
I would say the no through traffic, just anyone entering off of Gulf Boulevard, that's where they need to see the no through traffic.
Yeah. Right on. each
Kind of
side.
like where we do the no parking on the street signs. which
Yeah,
Yeah,
kind of as you turn on the streets.
yeah, no throughs. On
Yeah.
all of them, yeah.
And those neighborhood watch signs, they're probably not doing much. You could rip those down.
Yeah.
we don't
I
really
mean,
want
I
to be
mean,
cars, do we?
Yeah, do we have one?
While we're talking about signs, I actually had someone on my street say, could you tell that city to do something about these signs are all crooked. It's great, we got signs, but they're all crooked. So I'm just relaying that message.
Okay, Harrison.
Just-
Okay.
Build the earth
I'm
one?
like, why don't you call Kyle and talk to him about
Look
it?
at that.
You need a lever, I got one.
You guys are pretty good.
So the no through traffic goes on Harrison, one on 19, and then at the end of 19 and Bayside, you've got the slow down.
Yes.
Making turns. All right.
That is-
Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Everybody happy?
You're sure about this, right?
Yeah, just like that.
Yeah. Want to make sure.
All right.
And if it's, I know if it is not getting the effect that's desired, I'm gonna hear about it.
Okay.
So.
All right. I
Followed
I
up.
think everybody's in agreement. Everybody good?
Yeah.
All right.
Park a green bus there.
Okay, we're on to item 7, which is general business.
Remember, I'd asked you.
Oh,
about something.
yes, I'm sorry.
That's right.
Well, we'll just
That's
roll
right.
this right into general business since you're,
Okay, that's
yeah,
fine.
go right
That's
ahead.
fine. A while ago, I had asked the council's permission to meet with the county on the infamous intersection up here, Gulf Boulevard and Causeway, right? Yeah. So I did. It just took me a long time. So Kyle, so I met with Tom Washburn, and you know Tom, right? He had many good things to say about you. So I talked about all the different things that I've heard from our citizens, as well as things that I've seen personally at this intersection. Most recently, I was coming from Indian Rocks Beach and I stopped right at the traffic light, first car there. And when the left turn light came on, of course, we don't have the yellow light anymore, blinking light that allows us to turn when we want to because there's no traffic coming. So both lanes happened to be full. And so I watched everybody as they were coming and making a left-hand turn to go on the bridge. Not one car out of, I think, 8, I counted them, that were in the right-hand lane, making the left-hand turn, actually followed the 90-degree striping pattern. That's not one. Every one of them cut it, almost made contact, every one of them with the people on the left. The people on the left had to avoid and go into the cross yellow stripes to avoid contact. And then they were like, boom, boom, behind and front, all the way through. No contact was made, but I'm 100% convinced contact has been made there before. We've asked, I know, the deputies before if they have any record of it, and they say no. And I know the reason for that is because if Frank and I touch each other and we pull over and we call 911, they're going to say, is anybody hurt? And we say, no. And they say, okay, we're not getting involved. There's no report. You and Frank share your information on insurance and you guys deal with it. That's it. So every time we ask the deputies, and rightfully so, they say, yeah, we have no record, no problems. Well, there are problems, I guarantee you. The biggest problem is, and another thing I've witnessed when I'm coming from 20th Street, and I multiple times during the day, because we're watching grandkids, I'm back and forth, different times of the day. The entire left-hand side fills up before anybody gets into the right lane. I always take the right lane because I want to experience that wonderful feeling when everybody looks at me and like flips me off. You're not getting it. You know, you're not going to get in on me because I see what you're doing and I'm not going to let you. So we both make the turn and everybody just gets bumper to bumper. And we have like a 17-inch merge lane, you know, in order to try to move over. So it's just a disaster waiting to happen. So when I talked to Tom, we had a great conversation. So we talked about some different ideas. He did say that it's about time for this study to be done again. It was done like 2 years ago. So they typically like to follow it up. They also have cameras where they don't even have to come out here. And so they can watch it. He can put a couple of guys and task them to sit there for 2 days and watch cars turn. And they'll see how that is working. We also all know that different times of the year, there's different flow patterns through there. I asked him specifically because one of the ideas I had was, I said, okay, Tom, everybody that I've talked to wants the flashing yellow left-hand turn light back for obvious reasons. We know we can't do that with 2 lanes. So if we can get back to one single lane, and by doing so, remove the median that's out there with the palm tree, excuse me, and we could just extend that bi-directional lane all the way down. He goes, yeah, we could do that. Not a problem. So there's no rules against that. So people would just start backing up in that lane as necessary.
Does that hurt people coming one of those streets trying to make a left turn onto?
Well, I talked to the residents about that before, and they already handle that in this manner. I talked to the people on 12th Street, which is close to the median already. And they told me, we don't go out on 12th Street. We go down and we go to 13th Street and come back on the other side, and that additional block gives them enough space. And he said, and typically, if it's local residents, everybody's pretty considerate in letting them get across either way. So he said, I said, well, how would that process work if the city decides to do something like that? He said, again, it's simple. He said, you guys own the palm tree and you own the light and you own the electrical that goes out there. So you guys, the city would come in first and remove those. He said, we could
Well, I
replant
don't
the
think they
palm,
want to remove that palm tree.
huh?
The palm tree,
The big palm tree.
yeah, I think the residents don't want that removed.
Well, that was already recommended in its initial
I
study.
know, but the residents there don't want that. Are you gonna remove that whole median, the crosswalk there? too?
Correct. It'd be just like Sixth Street. We've all seen Sixth
Yeah.
Street. There's a crosswalk there.
Right. Well, you're not gonna
No
eliminate.
median.
All right,
Or they
so
can walk to the light. I mean, it's right, they can walk to the light.
that,
and
that
cross.
light is horrible to cross.
Yeah, that was, he brought this up and he
It's
goes, we
safer
really
than-
thought people would be okay just using the other light.
That
for its
is
own.
horrible to.
But he
cross.
said, no, he said, and I said, yeah, I don't want to recommend any changes to the crosswalk that's already there.
Yeah.
Because that's not going to be received well.
Mhm.
But he did say, we could make that get rid of the 2-lane turn. That also helps the people that are going straight down towards Indian Rocks Beach. Because they're the ones that used to get held up. Because the people, it was that short left-hand turn lane. By removing the median, the bidirectional lane goes to infinity. And people will start moving over and getting in line, and they could also put timing devices and change it based on the flow of traffic through there, so they can make it last longer, the left-hand turn lane as well. And you'll also have the blinking yellow left-hand turn light, specifically for the residents here, because they're the ones that complain when they're going to work in the morning at 7:30, and they come in here to make a left-hand turn, and there's no traffic as far as they can see. And they have to sit there for a minute, which seems like an hour, of course. It's just, maybe 60 seconds.
Okay, at
But
4.
it's irritating, and they're just on their first cup of coffee, so it's not good. So that would fix that problem. And he said, Lloyd, in a worst case scenario, if you guys do that and you change your mind, we just simply come back and put a curb in there. He says, but I don't think it's going to happen. He says Indian Rocks Beach, he offered this information. He says they're actually doing that now. They have similar medians with trees and lights. He said they've told us to come back in and take them out.
Well,
Yeah, so interesting.
Dangerous. I think those are dangerous because I don't think you can see around some of those trees when people are
Correct.
crossing.
One time, I hate to
I've lost
admit
people.
this, at night I was coming down and I moved over into the bidirectional lane. For some reason, I thought I was, I don't know, I guess past the median. And I was thinking about something else, and all of a sudden, there it was. A tree. I almost hit it.
And I've had people behind the tree and also they pop out like, whoa.
Yeah,
That's
so,
good. That's good.
so the meeting went well, and Kyle, I just kind of want to, turn it over to you. I told them I would get back, and if council's okay with that, and you could contact Tom.
Okay.
And you guys could put together a plan. He said, obviously you're familiar with it. They do the study. They'll just do an update on this study to see the volume of traffic that's making the turns, and they can actually look through the cameras and seeing how many people are using the right-hand lane, how many people are sitting there in the traffic. But he kind of agreed that if we got rid of that and just extended that bidirectional lane, people would just naturally start moving over. There's a lot of traffic. They're just looking up there and go, I need to get over now because all these people are in line for the left-hand turn. Plus you'd have the blinking yellow light, and if there's no traffic in front of you coming across from the south to the north, you just go.
And you still have a light for the higher flow.
Yeah.
And you don't think that traffic is going to back up so bad in that turn lane that they can't get out of 12th or 13th, no matter what?
Well, I think there may be times, but I think that's there now.
I think that eliminated it by doing what they did. By you take however many cars are stacked up right now and you double the length is what you're doing.
Mhm.
So
But it's not much.
so I've seen it, both ways. I think that one of the arguments that, and trust me, I'd like to see that thing go too, but I don't live there. One of the arguments was that island presents a buffer. It guarantees there's a lane that you can hop into, and at least now you're there, so you can merge over and then get into the traffic flow. Whereas if you extend that farther down and traffic's backed up, you have nothing. The only thing you can do is make a right and find a place to make a U-turn.
And come back,
And
yeah.
that was the complaint. Also, would you leave the existing crosswalk where it is?
Yes,
Okay, so you just tear the island and the trees out,
right,
right?
just like Sixth Street. Yeah.
Yeah, because they definitely don't want to lose their crosswalk.
No, no,
Yeah.
yeah, did not recommend that at all.
We could probably put bleachers on that corner and sell tickets this time of year because I've chased cars down that actually hit people and taken off.
On the two-lane
Oh,
turn.
going over the bridge, we chased them.
Oh.
And we got them in Bel Air. They, especially with the trailers.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
because when they
Yeah.
make the turn,
They swing
like you
in.
said, no one's giving you any leave,
Fair
all
point.
right? And it's comical or downright insane, some of the, ever since they widened that.
Right.
But I don't know. I think going back to the old system was better because, one lane and just turn. But
Yeah, well, but
hey,
just
when I first got on council, I asked, how do you people north get the hell out of your neighborhood? And you said sideways, Yeah, and I said, that's probably it. But I think if you remove that, I'm kind of in agreement with the mayor that now you've got 2 lanes that are jammed up this time of year. Now they're all trying to make the left-hand turn.
Oh, there are 2 lanes.
Well, if you're gonna expand that lane, you're gonna take the medium out, right? And
Right.
expand the left lane, but you're still gonna have another lane too.
No,
right?
no, no, no.
Oh,
No.
you're gonna
So
eliminate.
only, it would be, it would go back to being a double straight through.
So instead of 3 lanes, you'll just have 2 lanes, one going into Indian Rocks.
No, there'll still be
All
3.
same lanes.
So
The bi-directional is the one everybody will get into to make the left-hand turn.
So you just have one left-hand turn lane.
That's correct.
Okay.
right.
But
I'm sorry.
what
I
happens is
misunderstood.
as you're crossing the existing islands and all of that structure there, that would be an extension of the turn lane to allow cars to pile up.
And that would pile up.
And it would, what I just want to caution you, because I'm open to trying anything.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's going to be some unhappy people.
Well, here's what's gonna, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, that's just, it is what it is. That's at times a vocal street if they're not
Right.
happy. And so I just want to caution you that that it could happen. And hey, if they say we can change it and the county doesn't mind restriping their own street 10 times
Right.
until we
They said
figure it out, I think it's worth trying.
Yeah. And they said that, of course, they could, they would set the queue deeper based on the time of the year, so they could have that left-hand turn green for 1.5 minutes if they know it's like spring break time, so that thing, when it turns red, it may not take long to back up, but then as soon as it turns green, it's going to flush.
I wish it would stay
gonna last
green
for
for an
months.
hour in the
Yeah,
mornings.
that's right.
Do we create another problem if we've got 2 lanes going southbound on Gulf Boulevard? And then not far below the causeway, the one on the right has to merge into the one,
Right,
you're into one lane.
but it's longer.
Yeah.
It's pretty decent.
Yeah.
In my 8 years here, it never really was a problem south of the causeway, but now we're getting traffic, and she can attest to this.
Oh,
All the way into First Street, backed up on the weekends to make the right-hand turn, like you said.
The
you-
right-hand turn.
Yeah,
Really?
oh, yes.
it took
Yeah.
me 25 minutes and this was not at lunchtime. This was about 10:30 to get from the south end of Indian Rocks Beach just to the past the intersection.
And Mayor, I think a lot of people are now using that other bridge to get into
Ah.
Indian Rocks, and they're
Mhm.
going straight into, it's a mess.
Yeah.
That's thought they'll go
Yeah.
side streets.
Well, that's something
You
they
see
could
it?
also,
Yeah.
Kyle, when they're updating the study, they can look at, even new issues. So if that's, I don't know if it's a new issue coming from the south to the north. And they can look at that and perhaps change the light cycles on it.
And you also need to have those numbers. Numbers from that study.
Yeah.
You take to Pinellas going, look at the amount of flow that's coming through on a weekend.
Oh, they know.
Okay.
That's who they report to.
Is this online on
This-
the county's?
This was given to me by Lynn, because I was asking for it, this obviously before he left.
I should be able to find it then.
So then I asked him the
Should go
question, I said, well,
final
how was the
with
final decision made? So I don't know if anybody here, Kyle, I don't know what your participation was. He said, well, the final thing after the study was done, he said it was actually, the whole thing started with the previous mayor. I said, you mean Dave? He said, no, the other guy. And so he met with the city manager, and the study was done, which was great, because there was a bigger problem, just like you mentioned, with the people coming from Clearwater or Largo, whatever, and coming over here to get to the beach or to get to Clearwater. And so the bridge was backing up. Has that improved any? It seems like.
We've
it
had
has.
residents get up on the floor saying, I made a mistake. I went to Home Depot Saturday, 11 o'clock, and I didn't get back
Yeah.
until 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Oh, because it was
You
back.
can't-
Yeah.
It's,
Don't leave on the weekend.
I have pictures.
Yeah.
of
Yeah, I believe it, yeah.
My phone of just how bad it is, and it's, there's no rhyme or reason to it.
Goes
All of a
past
sudden,
Publix.
everybody just decides, let's go to the beach.
Yeah.
All at the
Well, he
same
said that,
time.
he said that that's, if they had that new information or information, again, they'll change the light cycles. So that ideally, whatever the volume of traffic coming in here is, and they're all making that right-hand turn, they'll keep that arrow green for an extended period of time, just to get everybody off the bridge.
But they'll have to, they got another bridge coming up, so they gotta change all the cycles.
Yeah.
Right,
You could put burp lights in there, but then it's gonna impact the residents
I
when
see.
they leave here, like,
Right.
Figure it out.
make a nice long delay on that bridge
Yeah.
and then clear up Gulf Boulevard. But if you have to go to Publix or something like that,
Well,
you
let 'em
better
study.
walk. Yeah.
when I bought my house 4 years ago, or we bought our house, the guy who owned it actually gave me 8.5 by 11 and said, these are the times you don't want to be going across the bridge.
That would've been nice.
Yeah, so it was great. I thought he was kidding at first, but he wasn't
Oh.
kidding.
Yeah.
It was pretty
Yeah, you're
accurate.
taking the shots.
That's Gulf Boulevard.
Rule is don't
That's
leave
the
on
right
weekend.
turn.
Ah, I
Don't
get
come
it.
back at,
Yeah.
7
Now
o'clock.
you're-
Yeah, so it was all backed up this
I will,
way.
I'll email these to Kyle and he can share them with
I
everyone.
don't know what the answer is, except like what he said,
Bomb the
throw another
bridges
bridge in
and-
there,
yeah.
but you're not gonna live to see it. I'm not gonna live to see it.
No,
Even you, Kyle.
they'd rather put a bus in.
So anyway, Kyle, so if I could,
Step one to request the study.
yeah.
It's called formally
But
requested.
if we want to move forward, even previous to the study, he said that's
Instead of what-
acceptable as well.
I think if they're willing to do a study, then the numbers are valuable.
Yeah, I think.
Right.
Yeah, so that we get to study and then give them some direction
Right.
of what we'd like to have and see if they'll go for it.
Yeah, he said basically anything we asked them to do, they'll do it.
I still think it's probably not a bad idea just to do once we start getting serious, to just take a little survey down those two streets, because they're the ones that they're gonna feel the end result
Yeah.
more than anyone. That's it.
Deal.
Any other general business?
I have something I want to talk about just quickly. It happened today. Well, over the last couple of days. Spieler is a dock builder. Has been building a dock on our street. I observed them offloading their truck on the bridge on Harrison Avenue. They had the barge out there. Didn't say anything, let it go. Probably should have, but I probably should have snapped a photo and just called code enforcement. I didn't. Today, they were floating pilings all through the intercoastal. They just had them like laying out there. My husband went to leave with the boat and he had to work around these pilings.
Wow.
I did call code enforcement about that. They finally did bring them in, tied them to the seawall, but
This
They-
is weird. What?
these guys do whatever they want to in this city.
Yeah.
They've been warned a number of times about offloading the piles onto their barge on Belle Isle, on Harrison Avenue, anywhere they can.
22nd Street on the bridge itself.
Down on
Yeah,
bridges.
they are the worst. And
That's
I
the
don't,
easiest way for them to get it.
because
not
they
back
don't want to
on
come to
property,
the
right.
marina and unload them like everyone else does.
They won't, it requires more than just their standard barge with a boom on it. That's not what that's for. That's for driving the pilings into the ground or pulling them out.
Okay.
But they need a separate one to keep all the pilings on it. And that's the problem. They don't want to do that.
Can we remove them from being able to work here in the city? No, you can, assuming you've got code that addresses it, you can give them a code citation and you, I presume, because every city does, has in your code enforcement a nuisance reference.
Yeah.
And instruct us to file suit against them for creating a public nuisance. It'll cost them money and we'll drag them into court and hopefully. If you, where are they offloading?
Anywhere they want to.
Jurisdiction?
Yeah.
Or-
Oh, yeah.
So another thing you could do in addition to the nuisance is create code that says you're not allowed to offload there. That any dock builder must offload their pilings or whatever they're called here or here. You know, just call it out and
Don't we already have that, Kyle? I thought we've already addressed this because it,
We have signs. I have to check through the code
okay,
itself.
yeah,
But I don't think there is a designated place that we recommend.
we don't allow them to.
In the city. So could we completely restrict it?
yeah, probably. I mean, are your residents gonna get mad that they're not gonna be able to have a dock built
Well, they can, they just have to bring them in from the marina. over
from the
here.
water?
Yeah,
Yeah, and other companies do that.
most
On a
companies do it.
boat,
Yeah,
not.
and they
floating
float
free.
them, and they float them next to the barge too. That's okay, as long as
Yeah,
they're
if it's on
tied
the
off.
bar, yeah,
Yeah,
tied to the barge.
yeah, but
Otherwise. it's
to
a
just
hazard.
float
there.
them out and then it was, it's the canal that goes to our marina. They were floating and just tied off, and it took a lot of effort to tie these piles off in the middle of our waterway there. And I guess that's our jurisdiction. It's not really the intercoastal, so it wasn't, you know, we don't have a police boat. We don't have any sort of means to go out there and
No.
nab
They
them.
knew that because they've seen Mike's pictures of Kyle rescuing pilings. They knew they were safe.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
exactly what it was.
And those shorts.
The sheriff is part of it.
Yeah, that was one in the water. It was chilly.
so just something, food for thought. I don't know if next time, you know, one, we need to make sure our code covers this, but next time they pull a permit, we probably should slap them on the hand. I know there's nothing you can do more than give them hey, by the way, we're gonna keep an eye on you. We want to know when you're in the city because you guys aren't following our code.
Well, and even if it's activities that are occurring in your jurisdictional waters, you have jurisdiction over those waters. So for instance, you can say no dock builder is allowed to float their pilings or whatever unless they get a separate piling movement permit from us. And then you have to coordinate it. It's got to be only these times a day. You've got to do these things. I mean, it's more regulation, but if you're having a
Public
problem.
notice.
Well, they are the ones who chopped a piling off and just let it float out in the canal. And I think I called them and said, hey, come get this. Or maybe I called the city and we were able to grab it and tie it off.
They just chop it and leave it go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they chopped the top of it and just let it go.
Next time you're boating through there.
I've seen those things do it, speed.
Yeah, it is a huge hazard.
That's
I mean, it's not.
That's unheard of.
They may be the ones who dropped the concrete pier out
Probably.
there right there in the right around the
You gotta watch.
buoy.
Really?
There's one, it's still out there, isn't it?
Hear a litter?
I haven't been out, but
I think it wasn't gone anywhere, but one of my neighbors, his buddy brought a big triple engine boat out and they were gonna go fishing and lost one of the lowers,
Oh,
completely broke it
Yeah.
off. And they went and found it and they marked it and left it there. All right, any action items on that one, other than just raising awareness and
I think Kyle's gonna look at. code and
investigate
see-
the code and then discuss with legal how to best pursue it.
there's my one right there. Yes, sir.
one little quick thing that I did talk to Tom about, Kyle, also, I asked him, is there any new technology out there that could assist us with alerting drivers on our crosswalks? because we know we have the yellow flashing. So he said two things have happened that they put in a couple places. They have in front of the crosswalk where the flashing lights go on. As soon as somebody hits the button, like, I don't know, 30 feet in front each way, there's an additional flashing device that kind of tells the driver, hopefully, hey, you know, there's something going on here. Then they see the second one and they stop. In addition to that, I think the app was called Maze. Is that what it's called?
Waze is the traffic
Waze,
navigation.
my bad, Waze. And he said they're working very closely with that so that when you hit the crosswalk button, anybody that's within X distance, and if they have that Waze
got
on
Waze
and a
on.
GPS, it automatically comes up. They have the radio on. It'll tell them, alert, somebody's crossing, whatever it
Because
says.
we get, yeah. you
But
get
that's
police
gonna,
alerts,
yeah, because people
block
run
traffic
through those
alerts.
things.
They
Yeah.
don't stop
They don't work.
unless you walk out into the street. And I.
I've
me and
tapped
my-
a few cars.
My wife and I were crossing Sixth Street once, and the sheriff was in there, and we put the light on. 6 cars went through us, and I'm standing in there, and
Wow.
he's nodding at me, like, and he went down, flying
Got
down
'em
through
all.
and got them all.
Good for
It was a
him.
good, big payday for him, that thing, but they don't stop unless you actually walk out, I swear.
Yeah.
Well, I think the local residents do because they're familiar with it.
Well, yes, I'm
visitors-
talking about the
Clearwater traffic.
the weekend warriors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sad.
I have one more question if I can. What is the cost of a parking ticket?
That I've been meaning to bring that up when we were talking about rates. The current cost of a parking ticket in Bel Air Beach is $35. And if you don't pay it in such, I think it's 30 days, it goes to 70. But if we are raising our rates, we need to raise our parking tickets because people are just gonna opt to get the parking ticket.
Double it.
That's why that's
I would like to act, while you're bringing that up, I would like where it says no parking on the streets. I would actually like the fine posted on that sign, every one of them, so that it's a $50, $75 fine if you park in the
We
street.
just went through this.
Years
with-
ago, a resident said, the guy comes in, parks at 12th Street. Resident says, hey, you have to have a sticker. He goes, what's the fine here? Like 30, 40, he said $30 to $40.
Cost of doing
And
business.
you know, what he said, let him fine me, it's cheaper.
Yeah,
And he stayed there, he got fined. And lots of our sheriffs, they'll actually walk on the beach and ask anybody, are you in this car or whatever like that, and give them the opportunity to leave, which I don't think is right.
I don't want them to do that.
We just went through this in Bennington Beach and the rates went up to $100 first offense, $200 second offense, $500 third.
Do it.
That's in Reddington.
Reddington Beach.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, there's people, they park at every bridge around here. They go fishing.
Yep.
You can even tell them, hey, just giving you a heads up, if a cop comes by, you're gonna get a ticket.
yeah.
Drive back by and they're still there.
Right.
They don't care.
Try that all the time.
You know,
But I think that would also curb it to actually announce what the fine is. So big, much bigger fine and we publicize what it is.
I guess use Reddington's. Wherever that was.
I have more business, but it's 9 o'clock and I will postpone it until the next work session. Anything else?
I just want to thank everyone for the flowers and being supportive during the loss of my father. Just thank you guys. That's it.
Okay. Well, Mike, your cake has been a major distraction this
Eat it.
entire meeting, and I'm going to tell you right now, you're forbidden to have another birthday cake for at least a year.
No problem.
All right.
Pizza next time.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Welcome, everybody.
Sir.
get some rest.
Nice being with you all tonight.
Thanks.
Nice to meet you.